Welcome back, everybody, to the LCK Summer 2021. We're getting into our second match of the night. T1 up against Nongshim Redforce. This is going to be a big one. T1 coming off of a big loss against Live Sandbox, looking to reclaim a top spot here at the LCK, whereas Nongshim have been pretty consistent and looking great in summer.
There's a lot to talk about in this series. There's a lot to unpack. The mid matchup, definitely one we're going to be looking at very, very closely. But this is going to be, I think, a very telling of where T1's mentality is after that big upset loss against Live Sandbox. We know now, based on what we saw in the previous series, that Live Sandbox is just in general on very good form right now. So It's hard to be as critical of T1 as you would like to be when you can see what they could do to teams like Gen G as well.
Absolutely. I think that Live Sandbox, teams like them and Nongshim and KT, these middle of the pack teams, they're rising up in the LCK, and that's kind of the story we have for the beginning of summer. Whereas the top teams are struggling to stick around, whereas Gen G are still in that top spot. We have the roster changes for the two teams, if there are any, for this week.
And there are not.
Nope.
You know, you might be saying, well, there were roster changes. Yes, there was before the season started. But, you know, just to remind everyone, we do have a new system where rosters can be changed every 2 weeks.
Poor Wayne, man.
Yeah.
Just imagine playing behind Duckdom, the biggest up-and-coming AD carry in the LCK.
I do wonder, you know, where he'll land if he ever does end up being a top player, or ever gets being a player who sees top play time. But another topic for another day is both T1 and Nongshim come off of a loss here coming into today's matchup. Former T1, current Nongshim player Gory was very briefly on T1. He was a substitute of Faker, will face off against him. And you could see Peanut only needs 6 more kills to reach 1,000. He'll be the first jungler to hit 1,000 kills while playing exclusively jungle because Ambition and Score are the only other two.
Yeah, for you guys who aren't aware, Ambition used to play mid, and Score used to play AD carry at top.
A lot of people say Faker was the reason why Ambition changed roles.
Yeah.
That's a big meme going back almost a decade now.
Yeah, it all ties together here at the LCK with Faker playing today. As we're going to take a look at some of the team stats here. T1, even though they are 2-2, they do have some really good overall team stats. You'll see that they are third in terms of KDA, second and third for goal difference at 10 and 20 respectively. Whereas on the side of Nongshim, they're in third place, they're 3-1, but they actually don't have good stats here in terms of the goal difference.
Not in the early game, not in the mid game, but there's a late game where they really start to shine. And T1, a lot of their goal difference at 30 actually comes from the late game losses they took against Live Sandbox, unfortunately. In the series, that both games looked like T1 had firm control early to mid and then lost control in the late game. So they're going to have to tighten up some of that late game play if they want to go against one of the stronger late game teams in Nongshim Redforce. You can see that, I mean, when you look at these numbers here, especially Nongshim's numbers, a team that is third, 3-1, and has goal difference deficits at 10 and 20 on average. It just goes to show that in this meta, one late game team fight can often decide a game, just like we saw in the previous series.
Yeah.
So watch out for that. Your late game decision making has to be so strong right now in this meta because you can lose a game in one team fight in less than 15 seconds. Every lead you had could disappear.
Yeah, it's the blink of an eye. And that's kind of the meta we have right now, as you were mentioning. We have a lot of heavy skirmish champs that are looking to just get in there, engage, and do an insane amount of damage. There's so much damage right now in the meta. Here of League of Legends right now on 11.12, which is the patch that we are playing this week, starting this week. And starting here for T1, it is the roster that you have come to expect. No longer are we living in spring where we change every single time. The experiments are over. We have seen this roster every time for summer.
That's right. And a lot of people, including some of the casters here in our global team, calling for Zeus to play over Kana today. A lot of people are expecting that we might see that as one of the points that T1 might hone in on and shift with their roster because of Kana's relatively lackluster performances, especially in that Live Sandbox series. But all season long, he has not been the rock he was at the very end of spring when he did solidify his spot over the rookie starter in Zeus. But, you know, they don't play him today. Kana's in again. Clearly the coaching staff, Dane in particular, has a lot of faith in what Kana is going to be able to do. He's somewhat of a veteran, even though he's playing his first season in front of a live audience here in LoL Park here in the studio. Nongshim, this is a team that if they win against T1 today, You know, it says a lot about their consistency because so far it's been a fairly easy schedule for them. They did take Gen G to 3 games. That's the only loss they've taken so far this season. If they can tackle one of the 3 big Titans here after nearly taking out Gen G, you really have to take this team seriously. There's so many teams vying for that 4th place spot in our minds and our hearts, but also more importantly, for that 4th world seed going into the end of the year. And Nongshim is on a lot of people's minds right now for that potential spot. Yeah, they're definitely on the up and up. I think Gory coming into the mid lane, offering some just reliability, I would say, in the mid lane. He's not like crazy flashy, although he does have an insane amount of player to game votes. I think he has 5 so far. This says Wang Ho Ya extended. Wang Ho is, of course, Peanut's name. Big Peanut fan, as he is closing in on 1,000 kills. You can see that over there. She is very happy. In tears. Very close. He's 6 kills away, as mentioned. And would be a huge milestone for a player who's been around so long. You talk about players like Ambition and Scorer. Peanut is now one of the legends that stands among them. Also has spent some time on his opponent's team here in T1. As you see the starting roster more zoomed in here for T1. I mean, this is a team that needs to bounce back. Like, this was supposed to be their season, okay? Spring, you start off a little bit shaky, a lot of roster swaps. They stayed a little bit in the middle of the pack through most of spring. Towards the later part in round 2, they did a lot better. They went to playoffs. They were almost able to make the grand finals of spring, but they fell short. And the fact that we can even have a conversation about T1 here in summer, where they have solidified their roster, coming in as underdogs against Nongshim, the fact that that's something that you can discuss, that's an opinion that you can have, it's completely legitimate right now, says a lot about the changes we've seen from season to season. As we take a look at Peanut's history here, you can see his kills across the years here. Yeah, and he mentioned he was on SK Telecom, it was at the time, in 2017, was able to actually get one of his top kill scores in spring on that team. And just a breakdown of the champions he's played, everybody remembers him for his Nidalee, of course. That is actually the biggest amount of kills that he's gotten on any champion. He also played a ton of Graves towards, I think, 2018, 2019. He was just really spamming that. And that's why he has so many kills on that. Yep. So we take a look at our key player matchup here. These stats reflect a lot of, you know, the team stats as well. If you look at gold difference at 15, like, Nongshim have not been doing well, right, in the early to mid game. They've been having a lot of their success in the late game. And you take a look at damage per gold, both players very efficient in the top 5 in that regard. Damage per minute is only a little bit higher here for Gory, but he's also played a lot of set, right? And some of these stats don't always reflect set's damage very well, but... So you and I are a big fan of his champion pool. Yeah, you know, we've seen his Twisted Fate be a little bit shaky, something that I don't think we're going to necessarily see in the series. It's been kind of more of a counter pick to the Akali, which now in LCK is almost permanently banned. Got a Duckdom fan here. A lot of people saying Peanut is the leader, the role model, the one like elder, if you, so to speak, for Nongshim, but I think Duckdom is really coming up. Yeah, no, I agree. And okay, it's been 5 years since he's come down to watch Faker. As you can see, 2016. That's a picture actually that she took with Faker. A longtime fan. It's pretty cool to see that she made it down, especially in the current environment where only 20% of the arena is allowed to, of course, come into the arena and watch the games. T1 have selected blue side with their home team selection. Yep, no surprise there. Yeah, it's only Gen G who's prioritizing the red. If you just watched your very first series of LCK in the previous series, you might be confused by that, but that's just a Gen G flavor we have here in the summer season. I am very excited to see where the priority of set goes in this draft because it's Gory's most played champion. He's 3-0 on it. We have not seen Faker play it at all yet this season. It's been banned oftentimes, again, not necessarily against him, but against T1. We've seen it played by Kana, but Faker is a player that often is known for his laning and his playmaking ability. Gory has looked really, really solid in lane. Like, he is, even though his lane stats don't look amazing because he has played so much set, right? And he went 0-2 on TF. I think people will be surprised at how competitive that mid lane looks regardless of matchup. Gory is exactly the player that Nongshim needed. He's stepped right into perfectly Bay's role.
Yeah.
As the team has looked twice as strong as a result.
Absolutely. So excited to get into this pick ban and see, you know, what these two teams are thinking about right now. It's going to be interesting to see where they value certain picks, such as the Set, such as the Renekton. So, you know, these big picks that we saw even in the last series. The Akali, interestingly enough, they decide that they do not want to force Nongshim to ban that away. Akali definitely a very often banned champion nowadays because of how strong she is and how versatile she is and how she can be flexed. They're also going to ban away the Renekton, not looking to first pick either of those.
Nongshim going to have some strong bans here of their own, and the Kalista towards Teddy, the potential Faker, Kana flex of the Lee Sin. And because of these blue side bans, I think Nongshim even has the opportunity to see the rare red side first ban of Rumble, potentially, actually. You don't normally have that opportunity because you're the one who's forced to ban the Akali, the Renekton sometimes, and recently Lee Sin has kind of been in that slot too.
The Lucian.
Yeah, the Lucian.
Another big one from last series where Fate was able to single-handedly force priority in the early game.
A missed ban here from T1. That is uncharacteristic, and that's not something that you want to see ever in professional play.
This is weird. I feel like this isn't the first time either. As, yeah, they're just going to skip the ban, as Ezreal is going to be the choice over on the side of Nongshim. And you could say, okay, you know, that means that maybe they can get, you know, some higher tier pick, but they also could have banned like Heimerdinger if they wanted to do that.
There is an argument potentially, like missed ban in the second phase is way more critical, but there's an argument that they actually just wanted to refuse to ban because they want to have a lot more possibilities to counter pick on their second and third picks. But we'll see what the draft looks like before we can draw those conclusions. I don't want to assume that, but I do want to give credit to potentially T1 actually doing this intentionally, even though it's very unlikely.
Yeah. I mean, Faker didn't look too phased. It was his ban. And, you know, maybe that was the choice. Either way, Lucian is going to be the first pick here. Varus immediately scooped up by Duckdom. They will also take that Rumble, which is just
a lot of really powerful range damage here in this draft already. So Nocturne is something that's left open here, and when you run the Rumble and the Varus together, Nocturne is definitely one that jumps out at you as a pick that, even though it's fallen out of priority big time here this week in the LCK, something that we could see. Teddy, you know, a great Senna player, have the opportunity to pick it here with Perma mid-prio. Even with Lucian blind here, you're almost guaranteed to have that.
Yeah, and you can send a Kens to deny the Kens from the Varus as well. So that could be what they are looking for here, although there is a delay on just the auto-lock Kens. So maybe they are considering a different line here.
You can't stop the Thresh pick, so Set will come in instead. And you and I were joking about like Senna, fasting Senna with Set in the bottom lane seems like pretty strong too when you consider where he's at in this meta.
Yeah.
Bit of a meme, but there's the Nocturne I was talking about that works so well with Rumble Varus. You have very safe gap close. You have the ability to get Varus in the position when the paranoia comes down. He can do a lot of damage. Rumble drops the equalizer. I mean, if you end up with even, it's not a common pairing with the Varus, but if you end up with like Leona as a support here, T1 are going to have a really hard time getting Senna and Lucian into position to do any damage. You're going to be so reliant on that Set engage.
Diana, taken off the board here. T1, you would imagine maybe you want to take away supports to go alongside the Varus, the Karma. Also another one where you just, you know, you mantra inspire everybody, and then you just sprint at the enemy team. Also provides you just a lot of mobility, tons of utility, obviously. I do like that ban.
Yeah, it's very, very powerful is what Nongshim are running. And I think we could safely say that the missed ban was a mistake based on what we've seen here in T1 selections. Just wanted to clear that one up. So we'll see a Volibear ban. Jungle pool getting a little bit thinned out with the Diana removed now too. They picked the Rumble. Lee Sin's gone. There's another possibility as a jungle pick. Udyr is nerfed on his clear time, on his Phoenix stance on this patch. Still very viable and might be what T1 go for here. It can be very, very strong with Lucian. To set up those kills. You have a lot more kill pressure in mid when you do have that pick. Wukong is a big favorite of Rich's. Taking that one away.
Yeah, it's like the new Aatrox.
Yeah.
2021 version.
He often will even pick it blind.
Yeah.
To our dismay.
Wukong again. He plays a lot of Gnar as well. And Nocturne actually is 2-0 on the pick, so you might just see him hop onto the Nocturne here. Sage mid counter pick. The Kench seems obvious, and Kellen is kind of just laughing, saying, okay, well.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because T1 could have just banned this here. And it makes me believe, like, yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, like, I don't think you're ever going to, I mean, you wanted to pick it if you could have, but you took the set instead. So because you don't ban it, of course, Nongshim are going to take it because they have pick prio. But, I mean, looking at this game right now, I'm like, I mean, maybe it could have been actually set support. They did hover the Gragas there for just a moment, so it starts to feel less likely. The Azir here for Faker is always a big favorite for him. One of his best champions historically over the near decade of play he's had.
Yeah, it does mean they're not going to have that priority in the mid lane, as Lucian will scoot up to the top side of the map. And, I mean, Kana is a great Lucian player, so looking forward to seeing that matchup against what could be the Nocturne, depending on how Nongshim decide to flex it. The Gragas comes in here again and will be the final choice.
It's going to be a pretty solid lane into Tom Kench Varus down there on the bottom side. It's going to be a lot tougher for Varus to try to look for very aggressive trades, as looks like we will see the Sylas as the final pick here. So probably Nocturne into the Lucian. The Sylas goes to the mid lane. We have really good wave clear for Nocturne. It's not fun to play against Lucian as either of these champions, just because that's how he works. Like, he's a perma-prio champion in almost every meta, in every solo lane. So here we go. I mean, this draft ended up being Gnarless. Actually, I was a little bit surprised by that, given how much Rich likes to play it.
The opposite of Gnarly.
Yeah.
It's very Gnarless. I agree.
You know, it's a champion Rich likes to play a lot. He could have put the Nocturne mid, and it was still a possibility with, you know, no Jace being removed here from Nongshim. It started to feel like it was a little bit less likely, but I think the power that you get with this prio on Lucian is extremely strong.
Nagori instead of Naguri, which is, I believe, a Nongshim product. Not 100% sure.
Nagori, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's one of the
ramyun.
It's one of the ramyuns, yeah.
Yeah, but also, of course, our beloved Naguri, who is over currently in China.
It's also
the LPL.
It's also the word for raccoon.
Yeah. Yes. And Nagori, just to play on words for, of course, Gori in the mid lane, who is playing Sylas for the first time here in summer. So I'm curious to see how he will do up against Faker.
Yeah, the prio that you're going to have with Lucian here is so powerful around some of those early skirmishes. You're already going to have insane engages with set support that we pointed out early on was very possible. The plus Azir to Emperor Divide, the Cask. This is a great draft at the end of the day here for T1. It looked a little bit shaky at first, but they rounded out so well. You don't feel so bad about that mispan at the beginning and how the draft was looking. As Senna that doesn't have a Thresh or a Kench, sure, but it's got a set.
Yeah, you know, all calculated, you can say.
All goes back to the set.
It really does. And it's Keria on the set. We haven't really talked too much about Keria, but this guy, I think right now, is the best support in the LCK in my mind.
Yeah, I think most people would agree with that.
Yeah.
Myself included, I'll put it out there.
We've been fans of him for quite a while, and I think he's really beginning to explode into that position. And there are a lot of good supports in the LCK as well. It's not like you know, he stands alone.
I mean, Beryl is slumping, right? You're contending with life. Kellen is in the conversation right now, too. Honestly, he's on the other side of the rift here. You know, Effort is up there. Now that Hex Flash is back, Effort definitely one of the players you're a little bit more worried about. To be honest, without it, it has been, it was all right. But the engage tools and the team fighting that Nongshim have here are very limited in comparison to T1. You have long range, you know, Equalizer, Paranoia. You could steal a lot of the great ultimates. You know, every ultimate for T1 is pretty decent, and maybe not Senna's is like not that great. But besides that, you have a lot you can work with here as the Sylas. So you're like, you get one of the 5 amazing engage ultimates potentially. 4, again, limiting the Senna, but I worry about if this game doesn't really snowball for Nongshim, how they win the late game, because T1's draft plays itself later on. It's got great scaling built into it. You have set, so that means that you can almost start any fight the way you want to. You can turn engages around on themselves.
Yeah, and Zed's going to be good into whatever engage that Nongshim have as well. Like if the Nocturne comes in, the Sylas comes in, you can create a lot of space for your Azir and Senna to do the damage from the range. So I feel like just having that in your comp alongside of the Gragas as well, right? There's a lot of tools that they have, which is why we're kind of enjoying the T1 draft comparatively to Nongshim's this time around. Gragas has played Cuz this many. No, yeah, he's played a lot of games of Gragas. Spin around here.
Yeah, it hasn't been as popular recently, but Gragas jungle's got a long history in the LCK and League of Legends metas across the years. It's kind of crazy how in this meta too, the drafts that we see oftentimes are around a lot of flex picks, but you don't think about Lucian as much of a flex pick nowadays. Like it's usually almost always mid, but not to be the case. The flex we saw set into support has only recently been a thing again because of Hex Flash, and the Gragas flex is another one that you don't really talk about too much, but because of all these champions, these three having so many places they could be in, it was really difficult for Nongshim to know 100% how this draft was going to come together here for T1. Scory is going to teleport back in and eat some Sand Soldier damage because that's how it goes.
Saw a couple of cool pings actually from T1's side. It was probably Cuz just alerting his team to where the enemy jungler could be. He back pinged the bottom side Rift Herald, or Scuttle, and then the bottom Krugs camp as well. Just kind of showing the path that he could potentially take. And just to alert the bottom lane to potentially look out for ganks on the bottom side.
Yep. A lot of good communication coming down from Cuz. So it's been a pretty low impact early game here without the objective spawning. You know, neither of these teams have insane amount of control over their lanes to look for a Scuttle fight. The fact that Lucian is top here instead of mid limits your power in that regard to try to look for a double Scuttle. So it's been pretty calm, pretty casual. The real fighting starts for T1 when they hit their level 6s, because those are going to be really strong for them. But also the same is true of Equalizer, right? You know, Rich is going to be able to use his Paranoia. Those are the big spikes for them. But T1, I think, have an even stronger level 6. They get Showstopper. Like, they're the ultimate skirmish comp. Zed is very happy for a Nocturne to try to Paranoia into the fight early with no real items. They'll be like, I'll face break that.
Yeah. There's definitely some items he may need to build. He's already gotten a lot of sustain in the top lane just to deal with the Lucian, so we'll see what he has by the time he actually begins fighting. I think you might want to look towards the mid lane, maybe look for some kind of counter gank if you are Nongshim. If Faker decides to go in alongside of Cuz's Gragas, because you'd imagine that with that combo, you're going to be looking to set up plays onto the melee champions of Sylas and Rumble. So I think it'll come around to how they play around the vision and who is able to set up the fights on their terms, as Cuz is going pretty deep into the enemy jungle. Speaking of which, able to get a control ward very deep in there.
Yeah, he does get. Actually avoids the Scryer's Bloom here too. Peanut will clear the control ward. Ends up being, you know, very passive exchange though. Otherwise, we see a teleport back to lane here from Faker. Gory actually tries to capitalize on this, and he has 6 advantage, but as a result, no ultimate to steal.
Cannon Minion just chasing Faker down the lane. It's going to give him level 6.
There it is. So now T1 can, once Cuz hits 6 too, and he's going to reset actually before he gets the opportunity to get in, he'll rotate in. I think this is a great opportunity for T1 to push this mid lane out and then look for a Drake fight. The bot prio is pretty insane right now. Like, Senna is up in the jungle, like, dropping a deep ward there. T1 going to actually use their teleport for Kana on the top side of the map here, though. And they're not actually going to group for it, not yet. You see that they're more interested in actually looking for a pick here onto Peanut. They know he's coming down that path. Look at these pings.
But yeah, just look at this right now. The Nocturne coming way down the top river, looking to potentially set something up. This could turn into a 3-on-2.
The fact that teleport was used for Kana right before this too means that T1 have really no intention of actually fighting for this if Nongshim want to stay. They'd rather just get this Lucian further ahead on the top side of the map. Otherwise, he would have saved it and waited, potentially hidden it and teleported maybe into the jungle, into a ward they had up there, but not going to group up. This forces Rich back into the top lane, and the low stake continues.
Yeah. And Faker, you know, he was getting in there, he was trying to clear out wards, but he immediately realized the situation and just got the hell out of there, right? There are good engage ultimates on the side of Nongshim, but there's not like hard CC engage ultimates, right? You're not really going to lock them down. There's no Gnar for the Sylas to steal and stuff like that. Sylas can use his own Emperor's Divide, and maybe that's the closest you're going to get. But other than that, you're just going to be diving very deep on in there, Paranoia Equalizer, and hoping that you can lock people down, because otherwise they're just going to be able to scoot away. As we saw Faker easily able to just run away from that.
Yeah, Faker's going to have quite a bit of the white damage, the first 15 minutes damage in this game because of all of the harassment he's been able to put on to Gory here in lane. And, you know, Gory is only 10 CS or so down in this game. He's been able to, you know, stay pretty okay here in terms of that matchup, right? He's only a little bit of gold down there, and this is what you expect. So, impressive performance against the most famous mid laner of all time. Here to start things out, as the bottom lane is left a little bit uncontested here, because they are going to see the group up here for T1 on the Rift Herald. That's going to be a lot of extra gold potentially over to the Varus bottom side.
Yep. They do spot Keria rotating down to the bottom side of the map, actually, and they're just going to ping that out. And Keria does have to take the long route away, but he's able to go down there a little bit earlier than he, you know, maybe would have been forced to if Nongshim would have hard committed to the Rift Herald fight, so he doesn't lose that much.
Yeah, I like the situation here for T1 because it's only one plate, bottom side. Kana catches the top wave. Faker's still got mid prio. Like, life goes on here across the board for T1, despite the fact that Nongshim didn't rotate up. They didn't, you know, grab a Drake. They weren't able to get anything counter-wise besides one turret plate and a half. And a half doesn't count, unless we're talking about A presses. So,
yeah, and at the end of the day, if Nongshim aren't getting big objectives early on and they're not getting momentum in this game, you're still looking at a Zir and Senna in the later stages of the game, and I think they're going to be really happy with that. It's going to be difficult to blow any one member up immediately on the side of T1, as Cuz is able to just sneak that one out on the Rift Scuttle. And just continue playing passively because that's all T1 want to do. Yeah,
that's all T1 want to do right now with the lead that they have, as small as it is. And you really do start to wonder about Nongshim's game plan here because, like you said, the steals here don't give them that much incredible engage minus the Azir ultimate. It's going to be hard to pull off a defensive cask, and that's not really what you want to do if you're Sylas. I mean, there are ways that it can happen, but later on in this game, when you're dealing with the scaling argument that you have for Faker and Teddy, plus the fact that you're so reliant on this paranoia type engage that can be dealt with very easily by the set, I'm worried for Nongshim here. I mean, it's only a small deficit in this game that they face right now, but it's what you know is coming down the pipeline that starts to feel very scary when they haven't had any, they haven't been able to take any agency in this game, they haven't been able to force any objectives, or even use a single paranoia. Like, this draft kind of feels like it's not being utilized the way it was supposed to.
All right, well, this is going to be their first chance as the flash comes in from Rich. Gets that fear down, and there is no escape for Kana, who decides, nope, not even going to flash away from this one.
All I had to do was complain about it, Valdez, and it happens right before us, right before our eyes. There's the first paranoia. Finally, the move is made here to try to get control over this early part of the game. They don't have prio in the mid lane, but they have enough of pressure in the top lane here with that paranoia to actually have that engage on a solo lane against a squishy Lucian. Oh.
I suppose maybe he can drop that Rift Herald. Might want to save it for a lane where he's got some friends. But yeah, I mean, even as the Lucian, it's really difficult to get away from that. And Rich committed his flash to make it happen, and I actually like that Kana holds on to his flash.
Yeah.
And just takes it. He's like, okay, you know, this is what this comp does. If they're not pressing their buttons, we get a free win. So they pressed all the buttons on me. That's okay.
I'm going to watch it one more time. Rich instantly locks it in, right? Like, he goes for the double here. You see the flash committed so he can get behind and guarantee that even with the dash from Lucian there that he gets the fear. We are going to see a counter gank here. So we see both jungles hovering around the top side of the map. Nongshim grouping up in mid, though. See if this ends up leading to anything. It seems very unlikely.
They really want to get value out of this Rift Herald. Rich and Peanut here to try to clear the waves. Equalizer about to come off cooldown. And this should get a charge as the cask is actually spell shielded. We got a one-on-one in the bottom side. Keria is just soloing Duck Tom just like that, able to take him out.
It all comes
on
back.
The top side, yeah.
It all comes back.
Comes back to set. We also had a kill though on Takana, who this time he did flash, so it was traded back by Nongshim.
It was traded back. They do get those plates on the top side of the map. It was very close to that not actually happening, which would have been disastrous there, given the resources they committed and the death on Takana. So, able to bring this down to 3 turret plates. Faker gets a plate in mid too. Something else to point out, a little bit of extra gold. He's got 2 blasting wands available. He is ready to fight in this mid game. Once again, let's see how this happens. Is this just another oh, nope, he did not actually misinterpret the set health. He just got flashed on.
The Duck Dom flash too on himself.
I wasn't going to say anything, you know, I was going to try to be the nice guy here, but...
Nice play by Kellen, actually. That was, he really set that entire thing up, trying to punish the aggressive Rift Herald drop, and they were able to get that kill because of that Tahm Kench ultimate.
T1 just seems like they, despite these, you know, small blunders and like the picks that we have seen for Nongshim, T1 just have such control over this game. And, you know, despite the picks on Dakana, like, they still have gold lead as well. I mean, a lot of that's from the Rift Herald, but no Drake taken here for Nongshim. And for Nongshim, one of the ways you can always feel great even when your opponent has a later game comp than you is when you have 2 Drake advantage, 1 Drake advantage, and you can hold on to that and threaten some fights with the tempo advantage you get from that, where T1 does not want to come to the Drake because they want to just wait and scale up a little bit more and look for some later team fights because they have an amazing team fight comp. But the fact that we're now 14 minutes into the game, and even though Nongshim have gotten those 2 kills, we don't see any ability for them with the lack of prio they have in all 3 lanes to take this Drake. Means T1 are very happy that we don't even start the Drake equation until maybe 15 minutes or later into the game. Like, T1 are very happy about that.
They're totally fine to just coast here. just hanging out, you know? And things are just going really well for them. Like, say what you will about Kana dying a couple times, that's okay. You know, they lose some of that prio on the top side, but it didn't lead to them losing the first Rift Herald. It didn't lead to them losing their turret in the top lane. In fact, they were able to get the Rift Herald and do more damage to the enemy top lane turret. And so, still working out relatively well. Nongshim have been forced to use all of their pressure from the top jungle into that top lane, as Peanut has just been camping up here in the top side.
Yeah, I mean, Kana is always under turret here hitting these minions because we've seen so many resources committed for Nongshim to actually try to kill Kana, and they have killed him twice, but they haven't stopped him from CSing very well, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's doing a lot there, and it gives a lot of agency to Cuz to do other things on the map.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if Evolution is, you know, he doesn't have to absolutely destroy you. Like, he's going to be still good with the high amount of farm that he has.
Yeah.
And if he absorbs the pressure for your team, he's going to be enjoying it. Now, Nongshim are going to be able to get this as Keria dodges there, not able to get the phase breaker, but here we go. Faker is here, and Duck Dom just hates his life because there was no vision to spot Faker coming down, and he is never going to win that 1v2.
Doesn't have flash, you know, as you pointed out, wasted earlier. Didn't save him then, not available to save him now. Not that he would have had a chance. Yeah.
Where's your Tahm Kench for the Varus, the guy who's supposed to keep him safe?
Well, he's been spending so many resources elsewhere on the map, like you and I have been talking about. And finally, Nongshim are going to be able to get this turret down, but unfortunately, it's not first turret blood, or first brick, whatever you want to call it, so they're not going to get that bonus. T1 have so many advantages that are unseen on the scoreline and in the items right now that it's hard to even explain why Nongshim's comp is going to fall apart later on. The one engage is we're going to watch Faker call for this.
연기 좀만 해봐. 얘도 프리지. 거의 잡았어. 공 아껴봐 일단.
For me, like, 연기 좀 해봐, like, can you put up a performance, like, can you act? So bait it basically is what he's saying, and yeah, works out super well. Yeah, going back to what I was about to say, like, the composition and how it fights versus the one paranoia we've seen from Rich has been used to close like a gap that a Lucian, you know, dash could have closed, right? But it's basically one really extremely aggressive play on the top side, but they haven't used this long-range engage style from Rumble Nocturne much at all, and it gets way harder later on. Way harder.
Yeah. Cuz comes up, even just his presence allows some more damage to be done to this turret. The proactive rotation here from T1 is going to be good for just that. There's not much else going on the map, and T1, I mean, it feels like, you know, they're in the lead. They could potentially just go for this dragon. They just haven't shown any desire to go for that objective at all.
Yeah.
Just leaving it on the map.
There's just no reason to actually force a fight where you might lose in this stage where Nongshim is a little bit stronger at skirmishing when you have Supreme team fighting later on. And you can even know that Nongshim will never have the power to force those fights early against you if you just extend the game. And right now, you can see it's being taken here for Nongshim. But T1 just don't have any interest even contesting. In fact, they look like they might collapse onto the top side of the map instead. You can see Rich has backed off. This is going to be another turret, it looks like. Going over to T1, Kana is going to be guaranteed that extra gold. It's not a good look here, sadly. I mean, you can see that notification here for the Drake coming through. But it's just one small advantage and against many that will become more and more strong. Like we keep saying, once we do have those team fights. Because right now, T1 is very happy to not fight because Nongshim are not using the comp that needs to fight early to do so. You can almost put a 1 in front of that too in terms of the score, in terms of the kills. It feels like that's where we're headed. Unless Nongshim can really prove me wrong here in this mid-game, one Drake is not enough.
Yeah, I mean, their mid-game skirmishing is very nice. It's just, it doesn't feel like they have grouped or decided to make any big plays as a team at all. They have the second Rift Herald. Maybe they want to make a play around that in the mid lane or something. That could be a potential way to get it going, right? The equalizer to zone them away. You have some piercing arrows coming out from the forest. They have good siege. They have a good ability to do that and turn off the lights in case T1 actually want to go into a fight when Nongshim are not exactly wanting to. But so far, it's just been farm it out and wait for a late game. And, you know, Nongshim not exactly going to enjoy that, I don't believe.
No. I mean, the skirmishing power of T1 should not be understated either, right? Like, they have a lot. I mean, post 6, like, all their comp becomes really powerful too, like we talked about in the early parts of the game. But later on, it scales so infinitely well. They're going to drop the Rift Herald in mid here. Late rotation up from Gory, but he's got a nice flank angle here. Going to keep Faker at bay.
This is what we wanted to see. Put the push on with the Rift Herald. Do something, you know? Look for the siege. Look for potential plays, but instead it's going to be Duckdom who has to be devoured. The cast comes out. Kerry has taken an insane amount of damage, but easily able to soak that on the set. And so it's just the Rift Herald damage into the turret, basically. Nobody's going to go down.
They gave the blue buff over to Gory, who's actually very low on mana, and he stayed over on the side lane. And there were a few, you could see those 2 control wards on the bottom side, right above where Gory is. The red one's there that actually T1 now has to walk through. And for a moment, I thought they were going to try to make a play, because Gory was super low on mana. And actually, you saw Faker back at that timing. I thought, well, this is a perfect moment to actually drop Rift Herald bot and maybe even try to threaten the inhibitor turret. If you group up, you can force T1 to rotate down. You have that vision advantage. You can use a Paranoia to collapse in. And then they just tossed it mid. They gave T1 so much time to respond. They came right back mid. You don't get anything out of it. You see that rotation up from Gory. I thought we had like an amazing play potentially there. For Nongshim, they just didn't take, sadly. Because that was the moment. The second Gory had no mana and Faker backed, I was like, okay, well, there's a chance here. He gets blue. He's going to have a lot of mana in just a second. But sadly, it's not meant to be. And like you said, all you get out of this is turret damage. Not even permanent damage on the map. Not a turret to go down, not extra control over the mid part of the map, no extra gold. T1 are just celebrating right now, very quietly, very silently about where the game state is.
Yeah. And, you know, we talked about the range and the siege potential from the side of Nongshim. T1 also have that in spades. The equalizer has to be used here in the mid lane just to push them away, otherwise T1 would have been the ones to take down the mid turret first, even though the Rift Herald was dropped here by Nongshim. And so we return to, you know, the LoL state. It's mostly been this. We've had 4 kills from some of the skirmishes up on the top lane when Nongshim were actually pressing their buttons, but they've decided, you know what? Let's relax. Let's sit back.
Now, this is a very familiar situation with Nongshim where, okay,
this is one way to do it. There's a lot of damage coming out here from Rich, looking for the solo kill, but Kana splashing the right way, and now with Cuz coming up, they're easily able to isolate him.
Gory comes down here too, so another wasted teleport. That's a lot of lost value here for Nongshim. I mean, the kill alone is really terrible, but
Yeah.
oh, the fact that you commit the teleport there and aren't able to get anything out of it just really removes a lot of the pressure that Gory can have in a side lane.
At least Faker did have to mirror him on the bottom side with his own teleport, but
And also the flash going down,
Yeah.
I believe, for Kana, too.
I think you are right, though. Like, probably Lucian and Gragas would have been okay against the Sylas.
Yeah, he flashed over the wall there, so it is a flash for a flash, but... Oh, this is... It's not a happy time for Nongshim, and I was going to say it's a bit of a familiar story because Nongshim's leads in the 10-minute mark, the 20-minute mark, they're negative, right? They haven't had, on average, any advantages at those stages of the game, and they're very small disadvantages, like about 600 gold, like exactly we see in this game, but their late game has been where they've won their team fights, where they've actually been able to win these games. T1 has also been in this situation, as if anyone watched the Live Sandbox game last Sunday, where they have pretty significant advantages in terms of their scaling and where they are in the game. Sometimes even bigger objective advantages than what we have here, but they end up dropping the ball in the later parts of the game. So because of that, you know, if you're a Nongshim fan, there's still some hope, but in a vacuum, this looks very, very difficult for Nongshim to win.
Okay, well, let's see how this Drake fight is going to go down. Nongshim are aggressively attacking it as the Varus is going to smite it with his arrow, it looks like. We're zooming in on a potential engage. The Predator was popped here from the Gragas, but T1 decide, you know what? We're okay with this. It's not Soul Point. We have mid-track here on the mid lane turret. We're going to get value other than the Drake that you just got. We're going to put up our Azir turret, set up camp here in the mid lane, and force you guys to come into us as the cast there from Gory, not able to do much except push them away.
No, not very strong there, not a really good engage potential there, unfortunately for Gory. And these two Drakes, it could have been if Nongshim actually took the agency to take an early Drake instead of waiting until, what, it was like 16 minutes into the game they took the first one, then there was potential that this could have been Soul Point. And that's when you sort of go, okay, well, now T1 has to fight. This time they were able to just simply ignore the fight and walk away because they have that extra buffer zone.
Yeah.
Because this is only the second Drake, believe it or not, at 24 minutes into the game. So it's a small advantage, but like you said, T1 are very happy to get small advantages themselves elsewhere because the bigger picture is what you're more worried about.
Yeah.
And this is also a set game where Set plays support, but he's not really support because he's playing with a fasting Senna. So actually has real items.
It's actually really fed.
Yeah, 2 kills.
He doesn't have the largest amount of CS, but the 2 kills shore that up and put him on par with his 2 solo laners. He has the 2 items. No stopwatch. We'd like a stopwatch.
Eventually.
Instead of maybe the Ruby Crystal there, but it's okay. You can maybe get that in the future, as you mentioned. And yeah, I mean, I think we're already at the point where, yes, T1 have great scaling and maybe they'd like to wait for later parts of the game, but I think they can already take team fights now.
Double,
you know?
2 items on the Azir, so Faker is very happy.
Look at this.
Which,
just not letting Rich do anything. Rich with no flash has to just run away from Faker. There's no hope for him in that fight.
Faker has stopwatch too, so there's just no fear of any rebuttal whatsoever when the rest of his team is so nearby. Then you have this really strong side laning from Kana. Now, Gory is getting a little bit of it done himself, and he can have this really long flank coming through. T1 actually need to be aware of this, because that is one way this can go poorly. You can maybe come in here and steal Faker's ultimate and try to look for an engage. Faker and Squad are going to back off, though, and try to collapse onto him, so he doesn't have that opportunity anymore. But, I mean, I'm really stretching my brain to try to think of how Nongshim have a miracle engage here. At least there's not an insane amount of map control for T1. Like, Nongshim still have their pretty good vision around Baron right now. So there's a little bit of agency in that regard, and like Gory is still playing around that surprise attack.
There is still, okay, yeah,
wow.
he reads into it. I mean, you see his positioning in the lane. He's all the way up against the left wall. Like, he knows that he absolutely could be in that brush, confirms it, and is able to avoid any kind of aggression.
Yeah, it's like, well, last time I saw Gory, he was very much over here, and we haven't seen him since, so...
He could still be over here.
It's almost 9 years of pro gaming, game sense that you're going to have from Faker here.
Yeah.
So he is able to read into the unknown just from what little information he gleaned from the map moments before. We'll see if Set buys that stopwatch now. In fact, he does. Everything's coming together, Valdez.
Everything's coming together. It all makes sense now. Set buys a stopwatch. Harry has been listening to the casts, obviously. He's just trying to make me happy. Definitely not, but that's what I'd hope for.
It makes him look good. It makes us look good. It's perfect.
Yeah. Teddy's on 97 stacks right now. And just free. Like, there's been no pressure put on the Senna. I don't think they've engaged onto the Senna once.
Yeah.
He's just like sitting here in the mid lane. He's like, yeah, okay. Looks at his watch. 10 minutes go by. He's like, yeah, okay. 100 stacks.
This is like when, you know, they've like pre-ordered, Nongshim pre-ordered something and then they realized a little bit too late they didn't want it, and they're like, they called Riot Korea. They were like, can we cancel this draft? And Riot's like, I'm afraid the game has already begun.
Yeah.
I'm afraid the early game has already passed, so not going to be able to give you a refund on this one, unfortunately. Like, it almost feels like Nongshim gave up on this comp just because they didn't utilize it outside of those few moments on the top side of the map.
Yeah.
They don't trust. It's like they didn't trust it. Now you can't blame them for being passive because they've missed their window. And to do anything aggressive here is almost suicidal, right? I mean, there's just you're really going to be jumping into the fire. Out of the frying pan into the fire is the situation here for Nongshim right now. You're going to have to hope for maybe Gory gets a flank, maybe Rich is able to set something up on these side lanes. Like, these are moves you can do that will give you a little bit more map control, and maybe that leads to vision control, maybe that leads to a mistake. A lot of maybes, but at least they get that top turret.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing you can do with the Nocturne in the side lane. You set the Silas on the other side. You begin to, okay, here's one thing. They go for it. The aggressive play. The stopwatch is there. The Equalizer got such incredible value as Rich tries to kill Faker, and he will. But he did have to flash for that one, going very deep under that mid turret. And, you know, Nongshim, they still have these pieces in their comp. They still have the buttons that they'd love to press. But, you know, took them a while. They finally pressed their buttons, and they're only able to trade 1-for-1.
Yeah, and part of that's because they had that really deep wraparound from Rich. He had that turret down. Look at all the vision that they have around this Baron pit, too. And unfortunately, because it's a trade, and because of all the health bars that went down low, we had Kellen go down to like half. Duckdom was almost dead. Now T1 actually get that vision, so the 1-for-1 trade favors T1, because again, it extends the game. So we're going to watch this one more time. Look at where Rich and Kellen are. They have to go so deep to make this play. Kellen is the only one who's caught by the Emperor's Divide. You see the Senna ultimate come down, so Duckdom's low. He can't fight anymore, and Rich was going to die no matter what, but they only get one for it. But T1, let's take a look at the Baron pit now. It's actually not that bad, because you see Kellen does go over there, clear a little bit of that away, but they had a lot more control over this part of the map that they lost now after that exchange. T1, or rather, Nongshim, that is.
Yeah, I mean, I like that they're trying to go for this. I do not like this positioning, as that's going to be the free kill on the Duckdom. Not sure what's going on with them on this Varus today. Just getting caught out over and over again, not expecting the Senna and Set combo to engage on him like that, but absolutely, he was there alone. They eat the free Varus. And they're going to go in for dessert onto this Baron as Rich looking to frontline, but Faker isn't having any of it. Gory is looking for it. The Equalizer is pretty nice. Faker is burning down, and he's going to go down to the Rumble. The Devourer comes out on the Gory, but look at the frontline. Rich is going to soak so much damage with that stopwatch. He's trying to get onto that backline. Not able to kill Kana, but there's so many low health bars on the side of T1, and Peanut is so huge on this Rumble. Frontlining, able to get into the Zonias. That was like the 6th one we saw in the fight, as now Kana is all alone. The Lick will miss, but Nongshim will hit on the team fight.
Nongshim, 20-minute gold deficit. 10 minutes into the game, 15 minutes into the game, gold deficit. 30 minutes, that's when it starts to come online. That's when you see these good team fights. And once again, this was a bit of a greedy fight from T1. They didn't know where Gory was. He's on the edge there. Such a great engage from him. And the fact that they have Devour means that he can actually survive that initial burst. He can heal himself up afterwards. And it's a lost fight from T1 from that moment on. And what looked like seemed to be a fairly safe Baron from T1's perspective ends up being a lost team fight that goes over. So we're going to watch this perspective of Duckdom.
80 carry in 2021.
Yeah, I think you said it best. I don't have anything to add. So look at where Gory is here. They have a ward, but it's too late. He steals Faker's ultimate away, and Faker is stuck between a rock and a hard place. You can't actually go to the left because Gory will blow him up. And then while they focus on Gory, the rest of T1, he gets devoured. So you just can't kill him there. Rich does so much with the stopwatch, and T1 spent a majority of that fight doing nothing. because Faker was caught between a rock and a hard place. Teddy was not in a position where he could actually do any damage. Rich did everything with that stopwatch, and like you said, Peanut is so fed. You can finally see it when the one opportunity he has to actually do damage in a 5v5 fight, it leaks through. He's got 3 items online now. He's got an Oblivion Orb too. Nongshim just found an angle back into this game.
Yeah.
Blink of an eye.
I think, you know, 5v4, T1 was very aggressively posturing there. They're like, you can't fight us. What are you doing? But then the second Faker gets burnt to a crisp in the span of about a second, they immediately are like, oh crap. And Nongshim played the fight out really well from there. It was essentially a 4v4. There were a lot of low health bars, but the Devour value that they got was pretty insane. Not to mention all the stopwatches that were used. As we're having another engage come in, Duckdom this time around, he's got his own stopwatch as he is going to get kidnapped, but this time around, he has his team, and he's able to fight front to back. Now, Gory was in the T1 lineup at the same time as Duckdom gets insane value from the brush, but Faker looking desperately to take down Kellen, and he will. And that is a big pick that could open up this Dragon, or maybe the mid lane here for T1.
T1 really want to make a play for the mid lane, it looks like here. They've got a minion wave. Gonna actually scoop around, try to remove some vision instead. You know, with only 4 members up, carry it down. It's a little bit risky. You can take the safe Dragon play, tie up the Drakes 2-2, and again, slow down the pace of the game. Oh, we've talked about to death T1's strengths with this draft and their engage tools and how strong they're going to be in this late game. But like Lucian isn't that amazing later on, and also the execution of this draft still has to be good, right? Like you have so many tools, but if you don't use them correctly, it just simply doesn't matter. We're going to see Kana do a ton of damage here, right? And you know, we know how this fight ends. Duckdom is able to kill the set, but Gory gets caught. He's alone there. He's picked. He tried to turn this into something bigger with Rich's paranoia. A little bit of an overextension here from Nongshim. We know Kellen gets picked afterwards.
Cuz almost died.
Meanwhile,
okay, here we go. We're pressing our buttons. We're looking for the set. What does Set do best? He absorbs pressure.
He's a sponge,
He absorbs damage. Somebody make the Set sponge skin already. As you can throw everything. I mean, they threw so much in. They didn't use the equalizer though. As the follow-up cast and the equalizer does come in. The burn damage is so huge, and Kana goes down. But the follow-up engage from Faker is good. They get the top 10s, but now Faker's all alone. The rest of his team is too low, and Nongshim win a big fight. They're gonna be looking for this inhibitor.
Oh, and they might be looking for more than the inhibitor here, Valdez. Peanut has had so many games where in the early game, he doesn't pop off, he doesn't get fed, but he doesn't die. He does not make mistakes, he does not feed enemy laners. He plays a very passive farming jungle style right now. We've seen it on the Nilly, we've seen it on his Rumble, and later on in the game, he makes the big plays. This is another one of those big moments for him. And Nongshim, they're looking for more. Like I said, they might, if they have minions here, they might be looking to end the game. They're gonna have to back off, but such a huge turning point. We had now 2 big game-winning potentially fights for Nongshim. If there's a different state of the game, I mean, look, they have the minions here. They're looking for more.
They're going with this one. There are a lot of wards behind them. They got to be real careful.
Be more decisive than this, I think.
Well,
one way or the other.
I think they just can't stay here. Like with double teleport on Kana and Faker, you got to just back away. You have to respect the teleport flanks, and they will. It takes them a little bit, but they eventually land on the right decision.
Yeah.
There's no big objectives. They are not really going to break the pace at this point in time, so.
Exactly, and if you look at the side lanes, both the bot and mid lane didn't have any pressure to where they could have just backed off and taken an inhibitor, so it felt like the best opportunity was just to wait for the minion wave, regroup, and maybe hope for another pick that wins you the game. If you don't, you do back away just in time for those teleport flanks to not be an issue. I'm worried about T1 here in the late game. The execution of this draft doesn't work out as well as, you know, I really expected that it was going to.
Yeah, it's interesting to see just how insane this damage can be. The poke from, by the way, the Senna ultimate that gets stolen, the piercing arrows, the equalizer, very obvious. Look at this, deny on the back. Rich is up 3 levels on the Senna up here as Teddy is desperately trying to get away. He will die. That's a pick right there. The set goes in. Keria sets up a massive play with this one, but the Rumble is still alive. Peanut is so scary, but they hold on to their inhibitor somehow with that engage.
Somehow, miraculously, the fact that Rich isn't here means they can help push this back, and I won't say what it all goes back to, but at the end of the day, they have a really nice engage there. The inhibitor survives, but Nongshim are still in firm control of the map. We will watch this one more time. We're going to go back to this mid lane fight. You see the root comes through.
And crucially, the equalizer wasn't used.
I wanted to see,
Take a look at how much damage this poke is able to do.
Yeah, I wanted to see where Kana ends up in this, but he actually goes in aggressively, and then the equalizer catches him on his way out.
Yeah.
Everyone on T1 is so extremely low after this that Faker being out this far is, you know, a bit of a disastrous situation. Their comp has very little magic resistance.
Yeah, and Peanut has not missed once. I mean, this guy, he's got like a homing, it's like a homing missile, a homing equalizer onto as many members as you would like, as we're going to take a look at this play as well.
Yeah. Paranoia is used, so they have no vision here. They actually back up behind the inhibitor because the Paranoia was used on the top side. I want to see Karia's exact angle he takes for the attack here. Flashes actually for it. That was really well played. Haymaker is so strong. I mean, it does true damage. You have the extra shield. His grit was basically maxed out there. 45 seconds until this next Drake. It's not a soul for either team, but it will be soul point. Don't know if we'll get to see that soul in this game because the first Drake was so late. We're almost 40 minutes in before soul point. Death cap is up for Gory. Peanuts 1-0-9. Has his Void Staff now.
Yeah.
Not that there's much magic resistance, like I said before, to Pierce.
And that's really the one X factor from this composition. You can shut out the lights, you can poke them before they're even able to engage on you. And you can see now T1 are aggressively posturing. They want to engage before they get poked out here. And we'll see how it works. Like you said, I think T1's comp, it requires some really great execution. As the equalizer comes in, that is big damage, but there's no follow-up this time. You press your buttons, but you gotta get the follow-up in there. The Paranoia is used, that's gone as well. Kana is very low though.
I mean, with all the low health bars here, T1 have to take some time to back away. They're gonna maybe try to trade this for a Baron, but it's so obvious. There's so much vision here. I don't think Nongshim has happened. T1, you gotta back away. You're gonna lose both, and you might actually lose the game if you get wiped here. Oh, this is so risky. This is so greedy.
The TP should come in, but the thing is that they might say, okay, we can do this because of the cooldowns were just used, but Equalizer's almost up.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like a 30-second cooldown,
Not to mention Paranoia is halfway up, so I mean, that's not going to be there for the fight, but yeah, these cooldowns are not extremely long. I don't think you could try to look for an objective here. You will lose the game if you get wiped there. You might lose the game either way. It's a really terrible situation here for T1. They have such a range problem in this game. Not like Kasky was looking for, but
I mean, it's poke, right?
Yeah.
It fits in really well with their comp at least.
Sure. The damage is so high for Nongshim, and it's so easy to execute the Equalizer poke and the Varus poke in this late game scenario because we're 40 minutes into the game with full items coming up for these players. The gold difference here is kind of insane. Teddy has been a bit of a non-factor. Like, Set was the one who absorbed all the gold on the bottom side, as we talked about. And the gold issue is obviously because it's fasting Senna too, but
also the jungle and the mid lane, right? There's some big wallets there for Nongshim. Peanut and Gory have just been so consistent, right? Like, nothing really happened. They made 0 mistakes. And once the action started, they've been clean.
There's very little peel for Senna to actually do save damage in this game.
Okay, here's an opportunity. Kana's looking for Rich. Rich looking to turn it around, but with the Senna help, should be good. The Fear lasts for so incredibly long. He's going to get the GA. As Gory thinking about getting in there, but Rich will be able to back away, keep his life, but not his GA.
Yeah, not his
Lucian
GA.
will.
Lucian will keep the GA. Lucian range is so low, the Senna range is low, that you really need to rely on Keria, I think, here in these upcoming fights. You know, if Keria can actually have a really nice engage once again, you can get Faker to do a lot of damage long term. You can even have a follow-up Emperor's Divide. It all has to start here.
Oh,
not here.
Running into it. You got to be careful about this. And yeah, I mean, T1, that's why they're aggressively posturing. They're trying to use the range of the Azir, the Senna, to try to poke away in their own right and try to get an engage with Keria, but so far it's just been so tense. I mean, we're 41 minutes in here and it feels like a fight could break out at any moment.
I mean, it certainly could, but it's so hard for T1 to be the ones to start that fight without vision control, without prio. They have mid-prio, but no vision here. Keria looking for the long con play.
I like this, but Gory's coming in. The Equalizer doesn't do much. Faker has to flash out of it, though.
Not a great fight for either team, but Nongshim looking to pounce here.
Trying to cut off the minions and stop the mid push. They will be somewhat successful, although they pull themselves apart.
Gory has Emperor's Divide, don't forget. T1 need to respect this.
Okay, they will keep position on the Baron, and that is really important. They're going to steal away the blue buff.
This is actually such a tense game, and we're so late into it that mean, even T1 have an opportunity if they can actually scrap together one team fight that they haven't been able to do for the last 3 or 4 major exchanges. They can win this game with the long death timers. We have 42 minutes in.
Yeah.
Baron buff available here.
Teddy's getting pretty aggressive with this positioning now. I mean, he's up to 158 stacks. Like, he's going to be able to just be artillery, basically, as this game comes along. But they really do need that.
Yeah, but you have to remember, too, that if he tries to look for that type of play and gets paranoid on, if there's no peel, you know, if Cuz doesn't have his cask available, for example, you know, if Faker isn't nearby enough to use his Emperor's Divide, like, he's very vulnerable. The same could be true of Kana here, with these very low range. I mean, obviously range extending here for Senna over time here. Champions are always going to be the ones that are vulnerable. Keria leading the pack.
Vision is coming in. And let's see, they're going to pull off of the Baron as Keria not able to find actually as he gets spell shielded. Nongshim are all over the place, but that is a massive equalizer separating Faker from the team, but it does not matter. He stands his ground and is able to stand up to Rich. They take out the Nocturne, but remember the old days of lethality Varus on red side. It's so hard to do Baron against
so
this.
hard.
You just get poked down. And I don't know if they can do it. I mean, they'll have to engage onto the Varus.
I mean, the scuttle here is actually super important because they have a lot of vision. They cannot clear that.
They have a lot of damage. They do have a lot of damage here. Maybe they can ignore the Varus.
Equalizer's almost up for Peanut.
Yeah, the equalizer will be huge, but it does not matter. The damage comes out from the Varus. There is the equalizer. It burns them down.
They're
Teddy
trapped.
has to get out of this one. Cuts finds a massive combo
play
onto the Rumble, but he dies immediately afterwards as the rest of T1 say, no, we're too low. We cannot follow up. We have to back away.
What a heroic play from Cuzzo, because without this play, they don't get out like that. It's way, 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 way harder for them to actually escape. The whole game plan here for Nongshim was actually to trap them or prevent them from coming in as you watch this one more time. But the equalizer here is massive. Faker turns this around. But the fact that they don't finish off the rest of the kills and all that chip damage coming through from Ducktile means that doing this for T1 is still so greedy. They pull it off. We're going to see the Drake taken on live. But watch this retreat path.
Cloud Soul.
Watch this retreat path as Cuz cast body slams here, goes gold so the rest of his team can escape. They actually don't take the advantage early. They're like, maybe we get more out of this, but no. They do get out of there as soon as he goes down. It's Cloud Soul for Nongshim, which is pretty huge for their composition. Closing the gap.
Yeah.
The ultimates too.
And all those ultimates.
Yeah, like the equalizer is basically a basic ability now.
Feels good. Feels real good for them that they're able to pull that off. We have Majais here on the Silas, and Peanut is nearing his final item. We're gonna be, I mean, they're gonna be able to basically call in tactical nukes with their composition. And T1, I mean, they have so much power in this late game, as we have been highlighting all game. But again, it's going to come down to dodging poke, good positioning, good engagement. This is the longest game so far, as we have passed the previous longest game, which was 45 minutes and 9 seconds. A Gen G win over Hama Life Esports, match 8.
The Gen G is definitely trying to extend their average game time to be the longest in the LCK. Had quite a few long games this season. The KT series, the Hama Life series, the series we just had. So, something to keep in mind, but this game is now on such a knife's edge, so volatile. The items here for Kana even are like, when you look at that, you're like, well, if you try to blow him up, you can't easily do it because he's got the Bloodthirster and he's got a GA, which wasn't popped earlier. Yeah. Riches is now back up, but like, who do you paranoia here now? Like, it's funny how we talked about how T1's comp was so good for 5v5 fights in the late game that they executed it poorly for a while, and then it felt like, well, I guess Nongshim just win this, but then as time went on, they started pulling it off. T1 actually started using their comp correctly and are getting these exchanges, and the late game with this Senna is starting to really show itself, so it feels like we're starting to bring up those same arguments, those same discussions. I mean, we are only 1,000 gold, the difference between these two teams at 46 minutes in. I mean, it doesn't get closer than this, folks.
Yeah. This is a treat. This is only game 1 of the best of 3.
Yeah.
Welcome to the LCK. We have best of 3s over here. Always fun to watch these extended ones. And who knows what these teams do. I mean, we might just wait for the Elder Drake to come out here, as we're on 180 stacks right now for Senna. But Nongshim's comp is relatively good at keeping her at range, so she's not just able to free fire, as we have been pointing out here.
Got to be so careful about stacking up like T1R in that brush. An equalizer comes down, comes up on it again in like 20 seconds, do it again. Then you've got the Varus poke. Suddenly you can't actually group up anymore. There's no objective right now on the map, so neither of these teams have any reason to try to push the issue. I see a lot of comments online, oftentimes in games like this, where it's like, well, this team has a Nocturne, and why aren't they pushing? And Nongshim's throwing away this advantage. In a game like this, you don't want to risk a fight that could cost you a game when you could actually take it with more vision control. When you're grouped up, you have control of that. You can use the equalizer and choke points, for example, around objective. There's no reason to just attack because you have paranoia and because you can engage long range. You want to wait for the perfect opportunity, the game-winning opportunity. So when everyone's almost at full build across the game, I mean, almost all 10 players are, you don't really actually care about the minion waves either. You're just like,
yeah,
objective, win game, that's all. That's all that's in your brain.
Yeah. You don't want to do the old Live Sandbox thing where it was like, see enemy champion, go for any enemy champion regardless of the scenario. They have kind of grown out of that. I think they've developed really well past that, even though they do retain some of that style. But I mean, here we are, 48 minutes in. We are in the longest game of LCK Summer 2021 so far. And who knows, who's gonna be the guy who makes the big play?
Yeah.
Is it gonna be Keria with his huge set that he's had all game long to really put down this Varus from early on and not really make him too much of a factor until the mid to late game?
Is it going to be Duckdom who ends up getting the chip damage with Peanut done, to win this? Is it going to be a sick paranoia? I mean, with GA up, it seems like that's just going to make it be so difficult. I mean, it's never worth it to engage on the Lucian, who is such a crazy glass cannon himself, who's basically a fountain laser in this game too. Low range, but when Nongshim have a comp that walks into you, you're very happy about that. That's something we've discussed this entire time. Gory changes his boots, gets the Merc Treads here, smart choice. Is that he's no longer caring about how this game started, but wants to make sure he has the power boots for how it ends.
Yeah. Definitely something you can do in your own games as well, for all you guys watching out there.
I mean, we've even seen in pro play sometimes people selling their boots to get an additional item.
Yeah.
Very rarely, but it does sometimes happen.
Tom Kent's just talking with his friend. And we have the Elder spawning here in 50 seconds, the Baron spawning now. So we didn't have any action after the last objective, but now the players will be forced to fight over this. And both teams have some pretty ridiculous objective damage, especially T1.
Yeah, you talked about the red side defense here with the Varus, but like it's too late.
Yeah, they just don't even have any time. I mean, in goes Peanut. There's no steal. That's a nice equalizer that comes in, but Keria denies them. In goes Rich on the left side. Who's going to be more tanky? I would bet on the set, but now he's being kited out, and Duckdom just has way too much damage. Cuz extends in, trying to get the damage onto Duckdom, but it does not work out, as Baron is secured by T1, but they cannot fight over the Elder.
You can't fight for the Elder, so you're going to have to split push. Look at the teleport coming through. They're going to try to end this game through other means. This is going to force Nongshim back. They're going to have to be on the defensive. This is such a smart call here from Kana and T1. They're grouping up. They might just leave one or two members to deal with the Elder Drake while trying to defend.
Yeah,
it's such a tough call to make.
What do you do here as Nongshim? Looks like the defense comes in, and it's going to buy time for T1. They're not going to be able to break the base, but it buys time for this Elder Drake to not be taken and potentially for Keria to respawn. I don't think we're going to get that far.
It feels like a bit of a foot race here almost, because T1 are trying to rush over to this Elder.
Yeah.
They're not going to be there with Keria, but maybe they were hoping, okay, maybe there were two left on the Elder. We can actually 4v2 this, but they're a little bit slow, so objectives are traded here. But my money is always going to be on the Elder in this situation.
Cuz? Nope.
Nope. Not going to happen.
I mean, if you go in there and you miss and you just die, could be game from there, because you can push 5v4 with Elder and probably just end it.
Valdez, we're going to watch this one more time as T1 are able to get this done. But look at the equalizer. Stopwatch is used so early on. And in the paranoia, there's a huge disconnect between Rich and the rest of his team, but he's able to escape. He has GA, so he was always pretty fine. Once Keria is dead here, the fight's over. And that's already an issue. But when you have an equalizer on top of Elder Drake that's doing this much damage on a Rumble that has Death Cap, Void Staff, right? The damage output here is insane. If anybody gets chipped down to that lethality range with the Elder Drake, that's lights out. Anybody dies, it's over. You can't take this fight anymore. The Baron buff is only going to be defensive here for the next minute, as you try to stem the bleeding and survive for 2 minutes. And if you could do that, maybe you have another chance in this game, but it seems so unlikely here as Nongshim have the red carpet to walk down to victory.
And speaking of the red carpet, I think with Elder, you just drop Equalizer for damage. Just drop it down, wait 20 seconds, drop it again. You're going to be burning people for so much. You got to make the most out of this minute 20 that you have left on the Elder. And look at that damage.
Look at the damage.
Sustain. They have sustain with the Senna, but is it going to be enough? The Paranoia comes in, zones them away for now, and down will go the inhibitor once again.
Inhib is down, and Nongshim can just hover around this for a little bit longer. If T1 try to group around these chokes, if they try to group up and chase, with no vision here whatsoever, look at the observers showing us how little information T1 have, you just die.
We're going to get to like a 60-minute game here. I mean, this is... You've got Elder 5v5, and they're just like, nope. I mean, now's not the time.
Some of the same things I was talking about earlier still apply here. You mess this up, you end up losing. It's longer than the spring record.
Yeah, we have surpassed yet another record. This is now the longest game of 2021.
They're going to look for maybe one more inhibitor here. There's no inhibitor turret. Look at Rich. Paranoia almost up, by the way. Not that he needs it at this moment, but he's going to have it in just a second here. Gory's also got a nice flank out. He's going to cast.
Yeah, this is just going to burn them down so much, and they do have the Senna. And there it is. I mean, one arrow, you get the one. And this is what I'm talking about. Just use your buttons with the Elder. But instead, they just decide, okay, we'll play it safe. We'll get the 2 inhibitors, and we'll use that pressure to take the next Baron. We'll see if that works out for them, because I think they had a chance to end the game, but they don't go for it.
It's all about the execution of that last moment. You can see Cuz shaking off the pressure here a little bit on the player cam. As T1 know there's still a chance. There's still an opportunity to come back. Senna is getting stronger and stronger in this game. But it's not about the Senna necessarily, though, if you can't actually survive through all that AoE damage that Peanut is going to toss into these fights. Everfrost has gotten a lot of value in this game, too. It actually stopping T1's chases, some of the angles T1 have tried to take. Oh, Valdez, this is one of those games that like actually gets your heart pumping.
Yeah,
you know, no matter what,
crazy.
Even if you're not a fan of either of these teams, you're just like, well, I just want to know how this story ends.
Yeah, Senna has 800 range, I think we saw there. Just adding
Absurd.
200 at this point, so this is what I was talking about. She's basically an artillery machine. Not quite the Rumble, though. And that's really where I think the crux is going to come in. How much damage can these equalizers do? The piercing arrows, the poke, significantly better on the side of Nongshim. They can keep them at range.
Remember, the reason why T1 had that Baron advantage in terms of positioning just moments ago was because Nongshim had a back timing that they abused. There's no reason to back anymore for Nongshim right now. Look at the control they have over this Baron pit. They can just use these super minions to try to threaten another inhibitor turret, but they don't have to even fight. Then they can group up around the Baron, and I just don't see any way of T1 winning that fight as long as Nongshim don't, throw, quite literally here, on these pushes. Just stay with the buff minions.
Here we go, Equalizer down again.
Look at the cooldown. Look at Peanut's portrait. Look at how fast that ticks over.
And I like what Nongshim is doing as long as they don't get caught. Just push and wait until Baron comes up. Use the pressure from the 2 downed inhibitors to get these objectives in the late game.
And get all the vision control. Look at all the wards going up around the Baron pit. We're going to see Kellen back because, he's going to buy something. I don't know what he's going to buy at this stage, but... Okay, more control wards. Exactly. Yeah. There you go. Surprise, surprise. I mean, I think even him backing here is somewhat risky, but you want to have that control over the wards.
Yeah, I mean, they gain value because nobody else can carry control wards this late in the game, so you need 2 on your support at least.
Yeah, and we even have Senna getting the ward box item here. Had it for a really long time, Teddy has in this game, for that reason. They have some serious collapse potential here. Gory on the flank. Rich has teleport and Paranoia. And Nongshim start this.
Okay.
They're going to try to punish Rich, but he should be able to get out of here.
There is a way for T1 to kill Rich and then 5v4 Elder, even against Baron. Rich is pretty fast, but he's not faster than this. He's going to try to, okay.
Empress Divide's going to block him.
Yeah, going in now, trying to make something of this. Looking to escape to the north side. He has a GA. He's going to go down.
Minions.
Yeah, look at the push on the top side with the Baron. They're going to take him down. They do it in quick amount of time, but this turret at least will go down, and maybe even the inhibitor as well in the trade.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Nocturne's one of your weakest parts of this game, actually, comp-wise.
Yeah.
So you're not actually too worried about losing him. I mean, they're just going to, 3 inhibitors down here. They are going to try to let the minions in the game as they stack up together here. But the Elder Drake, like you said, spawns in 10 seconds.
The minions, they're not even going for the Elder. They're
Oh
just
my
like,
God,
I
they're gonna try to
dare
trap.
you to go for the Elder.
They're going to try to trap.
Yeah, they're like, okay, sure, go for it. The trap doesn't work. They're not able to get that. Look at the damage, though, from the Varus on the Faker. It's pretty insane. Teddy's like, okay.
Teddy starts this. Nongshim have to rotate over. They have to respond. They're backing right now. The timing is not good for Nongshim here. Not at all. Teleport coming through. They are going to have to rush over, and they don't have any tools to close the gap. Gory's got teleport, but no ward to teleport anywhere near this Elder Drake. Have they made a huge macro mistake? I mean, putting Rich on the edge there and going for top where there was an inhibitor turret up was not the call, I don't think. At the end of the day, Nongshim couldn't threaten the Nexus. They actually went to the top side of the map. Rich is picked. He's going to respawn in 15 seconds here, but now you've lost an Elder Drake, and the whole game keeps going. The world keeps spinning.
This game is anyone's, though, at this point. I mean, the base of T1 is in tatters, right? There's one inhibitor, 2 Nexus turrets at this moment in time. Now, we have the bottom inhibitor is spawning in 25 seconds. Thankfully, we have that there on the left side, the indicator there for the inhibitors. But yeah, I mean, with 1 minute, 20 seconds on the Baron, you can always threaten to push to end the game, even though T1 have the Elder and will be better in team fights.
The other thing is that, arguably, even though the T1 have the Elder, because they're in such a defensive posture, that clock is eaten, like you said, because of the inhibitor situation. But on top of that, T1 don't have a comp that can threaten that Elder bar lethality because they don't have that much poke, right? They have consistent team fighting that relies on hard engage. And we have not seen them pull off that hard engage a single time in the last few team fights we have seen. They tried to kind of play their better macro game and actually win by getting Baron objective first, getting positionally into the right place, grouping up top, things like this, what we've seen T1 do instead of actually straight up team fighting. Because they can't team fight well, at least we haven't seen that from them yet, and their comp is so reliant on the Gragas engage, right? The Azir ultimate. This Elder buff doesn't feel as powerful for them. It just feels like they've gained 2.5 minutes extra of a game here to play, because now Nongshim doesn't want to fight into them, but T1 can't use this Elder because of the state of the game to actually gain advantages, so like I said, the game clock keeps running. We might hit 60. We're on par for it.
We will. I think we will, unless T1 just run it right now, but they're not going to, as Teddy is still stacking. Send Faker back. He can handle these minion waves. I mean, you guys remember the 94-minute game. There was an Azir in that game, Azir Sivir. You're able to sit back, you clear waves instantly, and you can't lose. Now, we're not exactly in that scenario, but changes made to the different buffs and stuff.
T1 just looking at Riot and say, well, you said Elder Drake can end the game no matter what, so we won't have any of those long games.
What now?
Let's see what we do. Nothing with the Elder Drake, and then who's laughing now, right?
Yeah, Nongshim first, right?
Elder buff despawns in 5 seconds. We have...
I feel like we're counting down to New Year's or something in 15 seconds. Like we're about to pass the 60-minute mark. Doesn't happen every day.
It feels like we're counting down to 2023 New Year's, like not even 2022 in this game. As we take a look at some of the gold, some of the CS.
Okay, making a move on Akana. The exhaust comes in, but it's not enough. He does have to flash away in trade of the exhaust.
The exhaust isn't that, important in this game against T1. Like, who are...
Whoa, what happened to our timer?
It also gained, it was 1 hour plus the 60 minutes. Like, I was not made for this.
What was that?
Y2K.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Not everybody in chat will understand the reference, but
oh my God.
It's a good one. It's a perfect one.
I guess we're just not going to have the UI anymore. It's broken. It's over.
There we go.
Hey,
Thank you.
classic.
Yeah.
It looks like this before Elder Drake's too.
The classic UI is back, guys.
So I guess we should talk about the stakes here a little bit. This game means a lot for both teams, just like the last game. Reputation on the line here a lot for T1. They've had a really lackluster season compared to expectations, whereas Nongshim...
So far.
Yeah, Nongshim started off with really high expectations. They started with a loss, in fact, but then really bounced back big time. It was a win, but it wasn't a clean win, right? And then they bounced back big time, almost took out Gen G. And for them, this is a great way to solidify a lead in the standings, as we will see a group up here.
Oh. One arrow could do it. One equalizer could be the way this game ends.
Yeah, I mean, it's all up to just one single play.
Yeah.
I don't even think Nongshim...
Okay,
here we go.
Here we go. That got basically no damage, though.
Yeah.
But the good thing for Nongshim is that you can basically say, okay, well, that didn't work. Let's wait a couple minutes. Or not a couple minutes, a couple of 10 seconds, maybe. Because the equalizer will be back and the piercing arrows are still here.
Banshee's Veil on 2 players definitely helps quite a bit. That one didn't proc for Cuz, only for Faker, but something that T1 have itemized into here. We might even see, more tanky, magic resistance items coming on if this game goes even longer.
Look at Keria. The team needs to back him up, though, if he goes for this.
He's
looking
very
for Rich.
alone. He's very alone.
Ooh. Chains of Corruption come out, and Keria will be denied. And no engage will happen. The Baron is available again. We got Elder in a minute.
Actually, T1 has positional advantage on this Baron once again.
Yep.
They're not winning this game from team fights. They're just winning it from smart rotations.
This is on Vision. They don't seem to care. Gory has TP. Will he use it? The answer is no. The equalizer is here. So look at Faker's health bar. Can they get out of this one? The Paranoia is in, but nobody on the side of Nongshim wants to engage. Finally, they go on out of Cuz, but Rich is too low. Cuz, he's all alone, and I think they're going to get him. Down he will go, and in goes Gory all alone. They might be able to trade it back as Gory, I think, unfortunately for him, may have just thrown that lead, but the Chains of Corruption on Kana nearly kill him.
He's got a GA. He's going to survive for now. There's a lot of poke damage here. In terms of the trade-off here, you lost your engage as both teams, really. I mean, you've got Gory and Cuz down, 2 of your best tools to actually hard engage, but the damage is still up for both sides. 13 seconds to go on this Elder Drake, and because the damage is all up and all ready to go here for the side of Nongshim, they can actually rush this down so quickly. Curry, I think you need to be focused on something else in the red buff here.
And Set survived this one. The legend of Set, he actually will pretty easily, but look at the damage from the equalizer on Akana. He gets his GA popped. And now Nongshim, they might use that as an opportunity to wrap around here, try to get some vision. They're not going to start the Elder Drake, though.
Paranoia is up, so, I mean, this is a big opportunity if Kana does end up being isolated here to go in, but it's just so hard to actually kill him quickly enough before the rest of T1 collapses on the Nocturne who goes in.
Look at the lack of vision here. Neither team really knows where the other is.
Yeah, it's just completely blind. I mean, the fact that they have the Scuttle Crab is pretty massive for Nongshim if they do want to wrap around here.
Well, they're going to start it. There is a ward, though.
Nocturne's going to lose his Edge of Night for this. Definitely not what he wanted to happen. Fairly low cooldown on that, but still.
Man, they're just going to burst it. They say, get over here, T1. Fight us if you want to. Rich looking to frontline against Keria. And if you're zoning Set away, that's probably a win for the Nocturne right now.
Oh, this is so tense.
Okay, looking to turn on to Keria again. They're looking to just get onto Keria, but T1, they want the Elder Drake. And they're just going to go for it. The equalizer, though, is getting a lot of damage. They will move away.
Could be a 50-50.
And look at the trading on the bottom side. Rich is trying to get on in here. The Sentinel Shield comes in, and the 4-on-4 over the Elder. Gory nearly goes down, but Duck Dump kills Cuz, and that's the enemy jungle gone.
That means no smite here for T1. They're going to have to try to collapse on Rich, but I think it's too late. Keria's still alive.
This fight is still happening. Rich is going to get away, and the damage out of the Varus is just disgusting. 65 minutes in.
I can't see how T1 win this game anymore. I can't see it. Faker and Kana both have teleport, but there's 3 inhibitor turrets up, 3 inhibitors up. You can't try to make a counter play. And now you're going to have to defend your base against Elder Drake again. Resets coming through here on the side of Nongshim. We'll see if any items go through. It's mostly just going to be for a health reset. See if they actually change their builds at all as we watch this fight from a million years ago once more. This is, I mean, absolute chaos. Once again, Cuz is on the choke point with the stopwatch
to
Gory to help
he gets
T1.
Really excited.
Gory gets excited, but he does end up getting picked here.
Yeah.
It's 2 engaged champions traded. As we watch this one more time, I mean, it's going to take a little while before we get to the actual pick that matters. It's on to Cuz.
Yeah, look at the damage here from the Varus.
Yeah.
Watch this.
Yeah. Gory is saved by the Devourer once again. That Tom Kench is actually so extremely high value in these late game situations too. Yeah. More than a Set is going to be to save. Now Set has engage opportunities that you're not going to see from Duckdom, or rather that you're not going to see from Kellen, but Kellen empowers Duckdom, empowers Gory. Let's let him go in way deeper than you're supposed to be able to at this stage because of the Devourer.
Yeah, I mean Duckdom counts for 2 people at this point, so if you can empower him with the Tom Kench to make him that artillery, he's much better than the Senna artillery I was mentioning earlier. That is for sure. He's probably upwards of like 60, 70k damage at this point.
Rich has sold his his GA.
Uh-oh, Rich. A little bit caught out here. Kana's searching for this one. The culling comes out. It's a lot of damage coming in. The Paranoia will be used alongside of the Abyssal Voyage to save him for now.
I love that Rich has just gone completely tanky here with this build too. He's just so hard to kill. He's got Randuin's, he's got Spirit Visage, Thornmail. He's so extremely deadly, and the more you auto-attack him, actually, the worse it becomes. And T1, if you get hit by an Equalizer here, and a Varus, Q, W, it doesn't matter, it's over.
T1, you gotta be careful. They are pulled out of position. See you later, inhibitor. Just
and
like
now,
that.
4-1 split here is so good for Nongshim. Rich is coming to threaten the top side. You're getting pulled apart here, T1. You're going to have to make a call, and you're going to have to make it fast.
They still have Elder for 20 seconds, so T1 won no part of this.
I think they have to still look for the 5v4 fight, because you're never going to kill Rich right now without what the items he has.
It's Nexus turrets or bust, I think, for T1. They want to hold on to this one, but it's not going to do anything. They only get the End of Night out of Duck Dom. That's not what you're looking for. And that's the 3 inhibitors down. Nongshim are getting so much value with this Elder Dragon push.
They get out right when it ticks to 0. They get away in 50 seconds to the next Baron buff, and the game goes on. 67 minutes and 40.
Oh, man.
You still have to be respectful of the comp of Nongshim. Trying to clear some vision up here. Baron pings coming down for Nongshim as they will reset one more time. T1 have an opportunity to actually group around Baron after they clear this minion wave in mid. The top push is there. They have bot push, like they have cryo in all 3 lanes. I think they actually have enough time, just barely, even with the super minions at 68 minutes into the game, to group on Baron.
They have the damage to burst it down in about 10 seconds. So you see the damage dealt, by the way, here? I was a little bit above what it actually was, but still 56,000, pretty good.
Gory has teleport, Kana has teleport, Faker has teleport. These are things to consider when you consider the fact that the backdoor can happen so easily here for Nongshim. The longer this kind of middle happy feeding happens here for T1 as they tried to, hopefully, they were hoping to get positional advantage on the Baron, but they couldn't do it because of the extra super minion push. So they have to back away, and this means Baron buff looks like it once again goes to Nongshim, but this time they're going to have 3 inhibitors worth of super minions to push with it. T1 are losing this fight so slowly in this game. It may be a 71, 72-minute game that they lose, but it feels inevitable.
I mean, who knows, though? I mean, with the Baron and the double super minions in every wave, it feels inevitable. But if Nongshim die, if they lose all their champions and they can't push with the minions, if T1 take a team fight, they still can win. It's not going to be easy, but you set up camp here at the Nexus turrets, and you say, okay, Nongshim, come into us and see what you can do, and maybe we make a last stand.
Yeah, this is what you have to hope for. But like I've said, many times, T1 have won a few trades, and they've been able to win some macro exchanges, and they got that, that Baron earlier on. But they haven't been able to take any straight-up 5v5 fights yet, and this is going to be the hardest they take all game.
Okay, here we go. The poke is coming out. Carry is looking for the engage. Chains of Corruption go wide.
Teddy is practically able to auto-attack the enemy fountain.
That is very true. The push here with the Baron, you can see that still you're up against Azir. Azir still exists in the game.
So quickly, these Nexus turrets haven't taken any damage. They're going to start taking some now.
Okay, here we go. Trying to get on top of the Senna. The Equalizer does do good damage. Keria is looking to get onto Peanut in the back line, but it can't. And look at the turrets. The turrets go down. You could just click the Nexus and end the game, and they will be able to do it in 70 minutes. Nongshim will win the longest game of 2021 at the LCK.
And it will be one of the longest games we see, I think, internationally all year, as Peanut comes up so big in the later parts of this game. He and Duck Dom absolutely carried with the amount of damage they were able to safely put on later on. T1 made so many good macro decisions later on in the game, even when they couldn't take fair 5v5 fights. They still were able to hang on by a thread that felt uncuttable until the very last moments where the minions were able to close the gap to the Nexus for Nongshim to take a win. An incredible game of League of Legends between these two titans that will be only the first of 3, potentially, we see between these two tonight after what was a crazy long series in the first part of the night. And we are in for more LCK action. You love to see games that defy expectations, games that defy the rules that Riot try to set with the Elder Drake. Games aren't supposed to go this long. They're supposed to end. You're supposed to be able to guarantee a victory when you do take that Elder Drake. But sometimes in the LCK, games are decided by late game. And once again, Nongshim, deficit at 10 minutes, deficit at 15, deficit at 20. 30 is where they take their first gold lead. They win the game 40 minutes later in supreme late game team fights. And that's what you could say about this team right now more than any other team, as later on, doesn't matter what the comp is, they can execute it.
T1 leaving the booth pretty quickly there, actually. I mean, this is a 70-minute game, but you would have to imagine that after a 70-minute game, you might have to, you know, use the restroom. Maybe you want to go rest. Maybe it is better, actually, that you don't take too much time to overanalyze this game. Figure will remain, but at the end of the day, it's just one game of a best of 3. T1 can come back. It is still possible. Nongshim fans elated after that one. Really felt like it could have gone either way, down to the wire right towards the end.
Valdez, I think we have to be critical of, you know, the early parts of the late game for T1, where they weren't able to 5v5 team fight before Peanut became online, before Peanut was able to finish his Void Staff, right? Then become a really big terrorizing force on the Rumble. Peanut looks very happy with himself. Let's take a look at the damage stats here. You pointed out Duck Dom at over 50k. Peanut has 40. I'll spoil it already. I gave my vote to Peanut. The parts of the game that Nongshim started to take control of were on every single equalizer play that Peanut made. And T1 could not cask engage. They could not set up for a big Emperor's Divide. Teddy had range, but he couldn't actually get the damage done. And T1 looked lost around the 30 to 35 minute mark. It was like around the 50 to 55 minute mark where they actually started to maybe make a little bit of a comeback in the game. But they couldn't actually really pull off any 5v5 team fight past the, you know, I guess like 38-ish minute mark where that started happening. And if that's the case with this comp, you shouldn't be drafting this comp.
It was just too much poke damage. They couldn't get anywhere near Nongshim. And I think Nongshim played out their comp beautifully at the end. And they absolutely deserved this win in game number 1. As we've mentioned multiple times, guys, that was game 1 of a best of 3. We have potentially 2 more between these two teams and more awesome action at the LCK. Will we break more records here? Let's find out after the break when we come back for game number 2.
밀어볼 생각해야 돼. 우리 얘네 클리어하는 거를 내가 궁으로 그을 테니까 얘들아 지금 가볼 생각하자. 앞으로 가볼래? 브라보. 아 상관없어. 타워쳐. 아 천천히. 아니야 쌈바. 얘들아 센스 노플이야. 타워쳐 끝나자. 타워쳐. 오케이 타워쳐. 나이스. 아 진짜 얘들아 우리 집중하자. 우리 진짜 집중 못하면 이렇게 된다.
Fly and Lehans appear as guests for the return of Sunday Night LCK. Damongia shakes up their roster after their loss to KT. Starting next week, audience members allowed at LoL Park to increase to 80. T1 Teddy achieves his 1500th LCK kill in the match against Freddy Brian. Hello everyone, I'm Junghyun Lee and this is LCK Weekly Newsfeed. Now for LCK news, last week marked the first episode of Sunday Night LCK, and our first guests made a really fun episode. Last week after their 2-0 win over DRX, Africa Freaks Fly and Lehans appeared as guests for a return of Sunday Night LCK. During the show, Lehans made some hilarious mistakes, like Bluetooth blocking glasses instead of blue light blocking glasses, and several more. Fly announced his upcoming promotion to Challenger and looked super fly in sunglasses, causing an eruption of screen captures by fans collecting meme materials. Fans' reactions to their guest appearance included comments like, "It's only episode 1 and it's already legendary. Where did my 1 hour go?" And "Africa is so wholesome." The two players shared good news and stories, making the first episode of SNL this summer a huge success. Africa entertained us on and off the rift last week, and fans should keep an eye out for more. Next in LCK news, Damwon Kia shocked the fans with their roster change-up after their loss against KT. On June 13th, Damwon Kia lost their match against KT roster 2-0. Following the loss, Damwon Kia shook up their roster and shocked the fans. Malrang was subbed into Ghost position, but the AD carry position was taken by Showmaker, with Canyon going to the mid lane and Malrang taking the jungle. Damwon Kia fans expressed concerns about the change, but however, the player showed expertise and performed well, despite playing in different positions for the first time on stage. Now, many fans are wondering if Damwon Kia will stick with their new roster, so stay tuned to the LCK to find out. Now for some news that many fans will enjoy. Starting this week, LoL Park will be allowed to welcome more audience to attend live matches. Following Korean government regulations, audiences at LoL Park have been limited to just 40 people, which left fans feeling hopeless about their chances of seeing the games live. However, starting from this week, the Korean government will allow 20% capacity, meaning that 80 fans will be able to attend the matches. These new rules will be applied starting from the June 23rd. Tickets will be available on the 21st at 5 p.m. Audiences will still be required to stay in their seats with their masks on, and food and drinks will be prohibited. We're all hoping for the COVID situation to get better so that we can fill the audience at LoL Park once again. Now finally, last week, T1's AD carry Teddy earned a great personal achievement. On June 17th, the match between T1 and Freddy Brion, Teddy earned his 1500th kill in the LCK. With his Ezreal pick, Teddy consistently dealt heavy damage all game. Along with the win, he earned his 1500th kill and entered 5th place among currently active LCK players. In an interview following the win, teammate Faker gave some veteran advice. 1500 is just the beginning. Keep working hard. We hope to watch Teddy's long career as he hits 2,000 and even 3,000 kills. That's it for today. We hope you enjoyed the LCK Weekly News Feed, and we'll see you again next time. Goodbye.
Welcome back to the LCK Analyst Desk after the longest game in the LCK 2021, and Nongshim stood up and took the win eventually. Before we move on, we wanna take a look at some of the rankings of the game duration here, and this was the 7th longest game in the LCK history. So let's have some history lesson before we go. I'm pretty sure everyone remembers the historic Junior versus SKT game, and Junior secured a win in that series, and Teddy is now playing in T1's roster. Today's match was number 7, and looking at the timeline, it was all in 2018 or 2015, 2016, and after a meta shift, there has not been a very long game like this, so it's been almost 3 years that we had about a 70-minute long game. I have never seen a game where teams had 6 Barons and 4 Elders. I have never seen it in Screams either. I think the biggest change of meta was that Elder. I'm pretty sure this was the longest game since the Elder Dragon patch. I think in this game he had more objectives than the players playing in this game. And in the end, once T1's Nexus went down, Senna had so many souls farmed up, but she was not able to be the victor in the end. She had more than 1,000 range in the end, but still Nongshim was the one picking up a victory. So we will try to make this analysis as short as possible. So let's take a look at the draft first. Nongshim had a very standard comp, whereas T1 had the very strong lane picks, Lucian, Azir, and Senna. They paid a lot of attention to the lane priority, and all 3 laners actually won lane, and they were able to snowball off of it. But starting from the mid game, I wasn't really able to see the value of winning lane because things got so shaken up, and then Nongshim just won the game after a very extended game. But still, I just want to point this out. This was the second game where T1 couldn't lock in their ban card, and all of those games actually went so bad for the team. We can skip everything that happened in game, but as a result, or in conclusion, Senna had more than 1,000 range, but still she was not able to reach on the Nongshim players because the ability range from Varus was still longer than Senna's auto. And T1 spent all day just getting hit by the opponent's abilities and skills. I don't really know why, but that one ban card, if T1 was able to remove one more card away from Nongshim's picks, this could have been a very different game for them. Nongshim also made a lot of mistakes. There were some minor and major mistakes in game, but still they were the one playing better until the very last minute. So let's take a look at the first highlight, and this is where Nongshim showcased better map play than T1. T1 repetitively kind of concedes some of the objectives or kill too easily to the enemies. So Nongshim, they knew that they cannot contest for that trick, so they look for a trade with the turrets. So they force Keria to rotate up to the top side of the map, and then as soon as they see both Seth and Senna on the top lane, they make a rotation on the mid lane in order to execute a turret dive. And this was a very, standard play that Nongshim can make by taking advantage of their numbers of the players that can gather up on the mid lane. Well, still, the execution wasn't that clean. Varus tanked the turret aggro, ended up trading kills. But still, I want to emphasize the fact that Nongshim makes better macro decisions. They know how to take risks whenever the opponents are trying to make a trade without fighting. And later on, those kind of decision making is effective heavily on the result of the games. And we took so much time to decide which replay we're gonna take a look. And this is going to be the second one, the last team fight. And in the player comm, we could hear Peanut was very vocal to throw the last shot to close out the game. They actually had to split opinions. Peanut was looking for the fight. However, the rest of the players were calling for the focus fire of the Nexus. But still, he sounded pretty mad, the fact that they lost their concentration. But still, they were able to take the Nexus down and secure the win finally after about 70 minutes into this game. I think the experience also was an X factor, especially from Peanut. He was able to lead the entire team, making the right calls when the team needed to hit the play button. And after a very long game, Nongshim Redforce locked down a victory, a very valuable one. And the POG will go over to Peanut on Rumble. Guys, focus. What's the last message from Peanut? He told his teammates, this is what happens if you lose your concentration. He was pretty mad about how the game went, but still, at the same time, he was the captain leading the entire kind of rookie roster in order to close out the game after a very long one. There were some moments where T1 was able to, pick up some objectives, but he was always there looking for a trade. If laners don't have a priority, it's really hard to play this jungle role. But Peanut kind of shows how they can cope with those situations. This is not the best case scenario for a jungle player, but somehow Peanut found his way back in this game and led the team to victory. And also Dokdam's Ferris was also so on point. He was having a lot of struggle in the early game. I'm pretty sure he was like crying when we were throwing that arrow, but still he was able to find so much damage with that one skill. He had a very long game instead in game number 1, so I think concentration and focus will be the most important factor. So let's move over to game number 2, back to our casters, Valdez and Wolf, please.
Thank you, Ji-sun, as always, for the wonderful translation of that analyst desk. As we have finished the first game of the best of 3. It was the 7th longest game in LCK history. It was the 32nd
longest game in
pro LoL history. Also, another stat we got is that SKT T1, the team entirely, before and after the brand name change, they have been part of 7 of the top 50 of those longest games. And we have 2 more potentially, right? It's it's really interesting, as that is a very awesome picture of Songcaster there.
He's got 32 days, I believe it said, before he has to go to the military, that fan. So he said he wanted to come here before he had to go. Has no regrets. And yeah, some interesting stats we have, kind of pulling through here. A lot of fans.
Dongjun fan there.
Yeah.
Caster Dongjun.
Yeah. T1 gonna pick blue side here for game 2.
Let's run it back.
Yeah, you could tell the atmosphere here is pretty rough for T1, but as was mentioned on the analyst test, you guys didn't have the comms to listen to, but Peanut was very upset at the end of the game. There was a lot of arguing and
it's like, guys, focus.
Yeah, there's actually neither of these teams go away from this game feeling great. But after a marathon game like that, you have a very short break before you go to game 2. If you're the losing team, I think you're always going to be the one who has the harder mountain to climb to come back in a best of 3 like this.
Dokdam's got a big smile on his face. It's like, did you guys see those damage charts? I did quite a lot in 70 minutes of League of Legends here. As
sometimes you gotta adjust.
Things are just breaking.
This is not a recording. This is live. Okay, we do this live. Okay, game 2. Red side for Nongshim. T1. Will we see the 3 bans this time?
Yeah.
You can already tell that the fact that they're blue side, they don't have an insta-ban lock-in, means that they're trying to kind of calm down here. This is the Varus ban. Yeah.
I love it. Is Rumble next? Is that the next one? You're like, okay, you're not allowed to play that comp.
I think that would be more of a red side type ban. I think they might consider taking the Rumble themselves. question for me is, do Nongshim give up the Lucian pick here? Because it went to 70 minutes, right? A lot of the early game that didn't go as well for Nongshim as they would have liked was because they had 3 lanes and no real prio. Azir versus the Sylas, you know, he had the Lucian up in the top lane, and bot lane was being lost against the Senna set lane for Nongshim too, so that was the hardship they had to survive to get to that later part of the game. See the Lee Sin ban again. Kali's removed, so Lucian ban would be a nice change here for Nongshim, and we'll see if that does go through. Renekton, another thing to consider. But I'm personally not a big fan of Renekton right now in this meta, so I'd be okay if it goes through.
All right, where's the ban?
Is this going to be another drop?
Let's see it. Let's see that third ban, T1.
I mean, you got to ban something. Come on.
Right? Okay, there it is. Lucian themselves. So they do not want to play it this time around.
So the third ban here will be Ezreal. So you ban the Kalista, you take away the Ezreal. You've really limited the champion pool. And on red side, you can now take the Senna if you want. If you want to take the Senna away with the 2 strong removals of Teddy champs, they take the Rumble here, like I was talking about, instead of banning it. You have that strong fallback. You could even just go straight into Senna Kench, and I like that for Nongshim here quite a bit. It's Duckdom we're talking about, fantastic AD carry player. See if they go that way. Set, Prio's rising.
Yep.
They could take one of the 2. They'll take Nocturne again. And this was something that was not one of the big impact champions in terms of crushing teamfights or getting a tempo lead, but really changed how those late game teamfights were played. It made it a lot easier for Peanut to hit those equalizers.
It just offers you so much control, I feel. Even just the thread, but also the shutting out the lights, reducing vision, causing your opponent to react in a certain way, to group up. As you were mentioning, for the equalizers, I like the pick. I think it's really strong right now, and they are going to prioritize it here as Renekton is left available. This was banned by T1 in game number 1.
Yeah.
So the fact that it comes all the way through here, they obviously wanted to prioritize the Rumble, but they will pick it up for themselves.
Question is, does Teddy get his AD carry champ here? You don't have the support to pair with it at this stage. You only get one part of it. You know, you could go for the Kench here and then take the other, but like, I think it's kind of off the table to go down the Senna path right now, as we'll see Viego picked up. So this is 3 champions that can be flexed into all 3 top roles, but I think we will see Viego solo, Renekton solo, Rumble jungle.
Probably
I'd love to
Viego
see this.
for Faker. And Gory, thinking about running it back. You know, we just had Lava bring out the LeBlanc again in recent times. We could see it again, but it's not looking like it, as Diana will be hovered.
I'll take the Diana instead of really common pairing with the Nocturne, and you have the set to back it up. So the engagement tools here for Nongshim are insane. The front line is great. Now all they need is a solid back line to do that damage, to actually have that consistent follow-up. We saw that Renekton Rumble was actually pretty successful in the previous series. If we go all the way back, feels like it was a million years ago now. At actually ganking the set, we did see that actually find success, even though the set's very difficult to kill. They'll ban the Senna, so like I said, that was kind of off the table. If you picked the Senna there or the Tom Kench, it was going to be banned either way. You're never going to get 2 parts of it. See where T1 go, because like both of these teams don't have an AD carry. So if we end up seeing 4 AD carry bans, it's going to be about who has the deeper pool. And my money's on Teddy in that regard, but I still like the front line so much for Nongshim that even a Jhin like works for them decently well if they get ahead. Tristana, here we go. We're going down the rabbit hole.
Yep. How many AD carries can we find? Will anybody ban any support picks?
Teddy has only played 3 this season so far, the Senna, Kalista, and Ezreal. So
those are all gone.
They're all gone.
Nongshim banned all 3 of them.
I wouldn't mind seeing a Vayne ban.
Tom
Kench, so I like that a lot.
Yeah, so no kind of Jinx Kench or Cogball Kench could potentially come out in response to what Nongshim want to play.
Yeah. They can Thresh Jinx. Thresh is still up. Jinx is still up. So that's a scary combo that will come through regardless, potentially.
I think you first pick, if they don't ban it here, you first pick on red side Thresh.
Yes, you have to, or otherwise you're going to give that duel over.
Okay.
Karma's removed. So if you take the Thresh, you can close out with Jinx and leave T1 with very few options.
Yeah, it's just so good. I mean, Kellen's a fantastic Thresh player. It works out really well with your composition. It can engage as well as disengage with Flays and boxes to deny. The follow-up from Viego and Renekton, I think this is definitely the pick, but they're not.
See, this is what the other thing I was going to argue against the Thresh, though, is that Leona is extremely good with all the hard engage that you have, right? Moonfall, Paranoia, Showstopper, Facebreaker. The follow-up here is insane. Like, I wonder if Kog'Maw is actually the answer for Nongshim as their final pick. You have really good range. You go Rapid-Fire Cannon if you want to have, like, even more range, and you have such a good set of frontline to set up for you. Maybe that's the path. I mean, sure, you're going to give over the Jinx Thresh, and I think T1 is like, is this a trap? Like, there's a little bit of hesitation here because it feels like it was such an easy pick to just deny the Thresh. They didn't think they would have this opportunity to play it. We'll see if it ends up being a mistake here, but the final question will be, what's that Duck Tom champ? What's it going to be?
Yeah. Who's that Pokemon?
He like plays Lisa, and I'm like, no! That's banned. I think it's Kog'Maw. Oh, Kaisa. I mean, look at this comp. How much more aggressive could this be?
Yeah.
I mean, like, Paranoia, you have Killer
Like,
Instincts,
what?
you have the Solar Flare. Like, this is extreme long range.
He's like just there with his hands in the air. He's like, what?
But to catch a lot of that aggression, you have Thresh whoever gets collapsed on first will be able to take a Lantern. You have...
this is why I still like Thresh better, I think. I think the Thresh does really well into Leona as well. But, you know, the Leona with the long-range Solar Flare, it really adds a little bit of extra reach. So it depends on really what you want to do, but you're giving over the Thresh to carry as well. So I don't know. I don't know about that last decision, but I'm curious to see it play out.
I mean, it's interesting because, you know, when you think about the ways that T1 can stop this type of aggression, they have decent peel, right? Renekton and Dominus, he'll have his stun. Rumble loves to, if he can sit back, equalize when the engage comes through and then drop his flamethrower. And if anybody who's trying to come in really hard, even like the Kaisa, ends up getting low, you see Kana get his reset, gets his first Heartbreaker off potentially, or even just gets the kill, gets the body, and starts resetting in the fight. Like, T1 of a comp that scale really well later on into the game with the Jinx. On the other hand, though, Viego, Faker's Renekton, not amazing here. A lot of this is going to be down to the tempo that Nongshim can set, 100%.
Yeah.
This is going to be another crazy one, I think, fellas.
That's what we like to hear. Let's get the action started from the get-go. Game number one started a little bit slow, and then we really slowly ramped it up into just this monstrous bubble of a game, which was awesome to watch. Don't get me wrong. So whatever happens here, I hope it's close. I hope it's competitive.
Lots of sounds. Thank you for that one, Teddy. Not going to show it to him at all, but you know, you can hear where it's coming from.
Curious to see how this Viego is going to do. We've seen pretty polarizing performances from our Viegos. Teddy is in a bit of trouble here. Will he have to use his summoners early? The answer is no. They don't want to extend too far. They don't have vision on where the enemy team could be. They could wrap around behind. They get some damage done.
Yeah.
Teddy is going to have to stay in the lane.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to back here if he wants to have that level 2 advantage, which is so critical versus Leona. He's going to stay. They had a ward on the bottom side of the brush, or the middle brush on the bottom side, so can safely stay in that location, know that he's not vulnerable to anything, and life goes on. But this is such a tense series because of the stage that was set by the first game. You know, you think about a series like this, T1 Nongshim was one of the most hype matches we have all week long, which I know sounds crazy if you've been following dynamics in Nongshim for a while versus T1's history, but T1 slumping, Nongshim on peak form once again. You know, since we saw them at their peak of their dynamics days, this is like a return to that form, but arguably even stronger here in the summer season. So once again, level 2 is the goal here for these two bot duos. Gory actually having a great start in this lane.
Yeah. And reminder, guys, if you missed the first series, this is 11.12. 11.12, the patch we're on, so the sustain in the lane here for the Renekton is a little bit less. Onto the minions, of course, and the amount of health that you can get back. And Gory is trying to make the most of that here in the early game trades that he is aggressively taking.
Yeah, just, you know, it all goes back to how. Once again, we're going to see an aggressive Rumble gank here onto a set who is slightly overextended, but not really that far.
There's the stun. I think the damage is enough. Flash comes in and Cuz easily scoops that one up. The Rumble is online again.
Rumble online, and it was not really that aggressive, the positioning that we saw from Gory, but he was able to get, Cuz was level 3, and he got into just the deepest part of that brush, had his flash available. Just enough damage there with the extended trading that happened to actually get the kill. Gory heads right back to lane. Won't be able to pick up where he left off, but that's a lot of gold. Over to the Rumble, like you said. Nice stun here from Kana.
Yeah, good trading, but Peanut is here. Kana knows about this.
That ward is so critical.
Yeah, he was able to push the lane and use his fist to actually get up close to that brush through the lane. Doesn't even go through the river to get that ward down.
Yeah, he actually doesn't clear the ward. Peanut doesn't because he wants to get to the scuttle as soon as possible to make sure there's no fight for this. I'm gonna watch first-person view here from Cuz.
Oh boy, windowed mode. Gonna tilt Twitch chat again.
Yep, he waits for Faker to make the call to go in. He goes up getting the stun there. Very calm and collected play from Cuz. And the ward, you know, staying up here ends up being actually kind of nice for Kana. Gonna have to farm under turret though. I don't know what was just spammed in game, but somebody was spamming some timer.
Yeah.
I know that sound.
I wonder what that could be actually. Any kind of summoners, maybe Faker's teleport could have been the thing. That was the most recently used thing that you could ping.
Yeah, I don't see any other summoners that were used recently. It's pretty common actually. I mean, everybody knows this from their solo queue, but like in Korea, people do use the pings a lot. If you see someone use the summoner spell in lane, you'll always spam.
Oh, we got a trade up here. Rich is going for it. The flash comes in, and this is a solo kill. Rich able to shut it down and evens up that kill score in the game 1-1.
A solo kill onto a Viego in this game here. Pretty massive.
Okay, flash on in. They're not messing around, trying to get on top of Keria here, who will flash away, but Kellen is so deep on in there. Stun comes through, and Teddy will also be chunked down. Very low mana here for Nongshim, but they did a lot of damage.
You can see that Cuz on the main map, he was rotating over to maybe try to get something done himself onto Gory, but Gory is playing so passively right now. When you see that amount of trading happen in the bottom lane and nobody's there to catch that aggression, you know that it's very likely that the Rumble is nearby. Gory still, though, takes a lot of damage.
Yeah. Faker, a really nice trade at the end of that. And something we noted, by the way, in game number 3 of Genji up against Liv Sandbox was Fate was playing the Renekton, and when you're ahead and when you're dominating the lane, the sustain is going to matter less and less. So the nerf that we saw in 11 and 12 doesn't matter too much, especially if you can pick up some assists, some early kills, and actually gain a lead, get an early gore drinker, and you're not really worried about sustain anymore. Still ends up being a fun time for Renekton.
He's not staying for a long time up here on the top side. Even though Viego has got the wave pushed towards his turret, is in a pretty safe spot. He does not have 6. Peanut, does not. Rich does, but
Kana is pretty squishy though. They're trying to get the fear down, but he hits 6 just barely. Does Kana. You see that actually pop up there on the left side with the CG.
Yeah, if Peanut is able to hit with the experience there that he gets while he's in there, then he can actually follow through Moonfall. He's still going to go for it anyways. No flash.
You can definitely follow up on this. Rich is taking a bunch of damage, but the follow-up comes through with the Diana, and that is a very clean dive that does come in. Peanut just going to flash for safety. Not 100% sure he had to use that, but they get the kill anyway, and it is solid.
T1 going to get the first Drake, trading back here on the other side of the map, but this is starting to look like this top lane is snowballing so much that I don't know if it really will matter at the end of the day. What Viego wants to be able to do in this game as we watch this once again on live. Meanwhile,
that sentence misses. It's pretty uncommon to see from Keria. It might not matter because it's 4v2 down on the bottom side. Rich has teleport. He will use it down on the bottom side, and this dive is not good. They're able to get the teleport and get out, though, which is not half bad. They need to use some time to get down here for the gank, but at least they don't botch it and lose any of their members.
Yeah, I mean, they lose a teleport here, Nongshim do, but I think the biggest winner is definitely Viego.
Rich is just so aggressive. He's so confident on this Nocturne. As a big trade is happening in the mid lane at the same time, Dominus is used here. Gory is almost able to just snipe him there with the Haymaker. The true damage nearly landing, so Faker has to flash away.
Faker flashes to dodge the true damage, has, you know, does end up surviving here. But like I was saying, the biggest winner of that teleport from Rich is Kana. He's in the top lane, actually not only able to catch all of those minions and Void actually getting completely gapped here on the top side of the map. He's also going to get a turret plate. Perfectly times the back off here as he knows the timing of when Rich is going to come back up. Teleport's been down, so he knows there wasn't any way he could get up any faster. Paranoia also used. Not that there was anyone he could Paranoia to, but very well played here from Kana. Really getting a nice edge here because it was starting to look like this Viego was going to fall so far behind that he was going to get lane kingdom and then that was just not going to be able to actually do anything in this game besides side lane and maybe hope that he can catch up later on. Gory is like, all right, well, if you want to tussle with me, I'll tussle with you, but yeah, nice resets here from Faker. Denies that back. If you look at the gold difference across lanes, the top side of the map is really where Nongshim have made their stand. This bottom lane for Teddy and Carry has been totally free.
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, the range advantage that you have in the lane with the combo, with the Thresh, talking about that matchup. We, though, have a 2v1 onto Gory here. The Equalizer ticking for so much damage. But look at that. They don't even follow onto Gory.
No way.
The missile. Oh, that was so close. Right behind him.
Calculated.
Hey, he's just backing. He doesn't care.
Hey, but it's a good sign, Valdez, because I think that's the first time we've ever seen somebody go, well, he's got Haymaker, might as well just walk away.
We're learning. We're evolving here at the LCK.
That's right. Like, finally people are actually going, well, I think it was very cool, it was very close, but he is in fact set. I can see that. So
right. So we have this Rift Herald coming in, but it's 4v2 right now. The rotation from Nongshim is late.
And no teleport from Gory. He has to walk.
Could try to follow up, but no, it's a bit too late. This is going to be free. Kana has to give up a wave for it, but it's definitely very worth it to be able to secure that objective for your team.
I think the Thresh power that we've seen actually so far from Lantern alone, even though it hasn't necessarily always been for Teddy, but for a lot of these other players, has been so massive. And we see it one time again where, you know, even though it feels like there might be maybe one way you can come in, Baker keeps doing this.
And it will be worth it in the end. I mean, he's setting this one up. Baker's looking for the kill, but as you mentioned, Peanut's coming in.
He's got Moonfall, but does not have Flash.
The cavalry charging in from behind Faker. That was actually a little bit scary with the fog turned on.
Gory ends up clearing this whole wave really easily, too. They might actually, nope, they're not going to clear this vision. There's been so much vision on the top side of the jungle here for Cuz. It's been pretty massive to see some of these rotations coming through. It's a really close game, actually, so far. And neither of these comps have, you know, extreme, supreme late game supremacy over the other. So, you know, the fact that T1 have this first break is pretty massive.
Uh-oh. He's just all alone here. Carry but they're not quite able to get the burst damage in. Carry just exhausts and walks away.
Yeah, exhaust used, and they're going to take this opportunity now to go ahead and drop the Rift Herald and clean up the rest of these plates. Will be first turret blood, too, going over to T1. Teddy going to pick that up. 610 gold. Nice attempt here to deny this. Very proactive from Kellen. Knowing that this is the upcoming play, if you actually get that pick, you can shut this down completely, but unsuccessful. It's a bit of a quiet moment here before this next Drake spawns, but if T1 get a 2 Drake advantage, it's going to make it, you know, very comfortable for them heading into this mid game.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the objectives they've already taken, the first Drake, the first Herald. The only thing they're kind of not enjoying is this top lane.
Yeah.
And you look at the side of Nongshim, I mean, the Nocturne and the Diana are immediately online, so those are going to be a couple of tools that can absolutely help you just dive in and win big team fights, especially in the mid game here.
A lot of help coming up to the top side now that this bottom turret is gone. Rich was very far forward. He does react very quickly here. Maybe we'll just have Teddy and Carria trying to get a further lead here. Some additional plays.
Trying to punish Carria, but Rich, maybe did he go too far? The kill not quite coming in, but Kaisa's able to get that execution. And now we have the Paranoia follow-up. The Jinx has to flash away. And this is what Nongshim's comp does. You find enemy champion, and you engage on them. You press all your buttons. Look at this.
Peanut's here.
That's a really great stun.
Oh, that was so beautiful. Blind 2 over the wall just in case he was there. It's not over yet. Peanut once
Still
more.
on the chase, and there it is. He's got Pro Belt. Easy peasy flash on over. You got to be careful about the Viego, but you still got so much value if you're Nongshim in that top side fight.
So much extra gold. They actually pull ahead. They take a gold lead, and they're going to get an extra plate here, it looks like, potentially.
Okay, big fight here in the mid lane, but the grit is there, and the Haymaker is huge. The solo kill for the former substitute of T1.
Are we learning here in the LCK about that grit, about that Haymaker? I thought we were, but apparently not. As a failed attempted solo kill goes wrong here, Nongshim turned a very slight lead for T1 into a massive gold lead for them. They're 900 gold ahead right now, nearly 1,000.
Yeah.
As they take this scuttle, they have positioning to maybe even wrap up and wrap around for this Drake to even up the Heralds, or rather even up the Dragons. Smell a bit of a longer night here.
I want to. Oh, okay. So we're gonna start with this. Maybe we can see the trade between Faker and Gory a little bit later.
Karia's level 6 here, so he uses the box, gets feared, but he goes down so quickly. Rich does so much damage to him. The equalizer is well placed, but this is just a numbers game that you're not going to win as T1 here. Yeah, you get the flash away on the Jinx, but like once the paranoia comes through, you have to respect how quickly this team can rotate. I love the stun from Kana. But as we show, the Rocket Belt is just going to help close the distance with the flash here for Peanut to close that last gap.
All right, let's see it.
I mean, he stays here and keeps trading because he's got Dominus, but like, this is just a miscalculation. Like, it's just straight up, like nothing else to say about it.
Does Gory say anything? Nothing. Does Peanut say anything?
나이스.
Peanut does. I would have actually rather watched Faker's face in that moment, to be honest. But
Yeah. Either way. When I looked at the items right after, I saw Faker with the Gore Drinker, and maybe he died and bought it right away. So I don't know if he had that item advantage before he went for the fight. I would assume not.
I don't think so.
Yeah. He just felt like, okay, I'm Renekton, I should win this, but he just got popped in the face multiple times by the set. It was pretty straightforward, just a miscalculation, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, last time we saw him walk away. Not this time.
Yeah.
So,
and that's just another lane that's coming online now.
Yeah.
Because the Nocturne and the Diana were already, holding hands and doing fun stuff up in the top side, but now the set gets an extra kill under its belt. The Kaisa got a kill in the last fight. I mean, things are really ramping up here for Nongshim.
Diana also is starting to get a little bit fed, which is terrifying, right? I mean, she spikes a little bit later than a lot of AP junglers, but getting the Rocket Belt this early, getting that kill with it, she's got Sork Shoes, it now has a stopwatch, so the upcoming fight, she's going to be almost immortal.
Look at Rich. I mean, he's not scared of anything.
I mean, this is a kind of game where the T1 fans are going to be like, still wondering if Zeus might ever make an appearance. It's not Kana getting totally gapped so bad that you have to really criticize his individual performance. It's just that Rich is outplaying him. Interesting interaction here.
Yeah, Kellen's like, well, I didn't want to go over the wall, but if that's what you insist. And, they're going to use this prio. They have rotated the lanes, and they're going to look for the second Rift Herald. It's the only big objective on the map right now. And, I thought that rotation from T1 up to the top side of the map, where Keria went pretty deep and warded, I thought that was actually a smart macro play.
Yeah.
Right? You try to neutralize where Nongshim are strong, and you try to basically push Rich and Peanut out of the lane and stop them from bullying Kana. But it was just an overstep, and they were a little bit spread out. The communication wasn't there, and Nongshim just pounced on it.
It was a decision that when you think about the power of where Nongshim has their power, which lanes, which part of the map, it's a great decision in that regard, but it failed to take into account how far away and from how far you can actually collapse. Just watch this one more time. That was actually the sound that Valdez basically made when he explained what was happening in that. That's what sound you heard in your head.
Pretty much. At first he was like, "Oh, what the hell? Why am I here?"
But yeah, in terms of the decision from just a straight up macro perspective and a state of the game perspective, I think it was correct. But when you think about how far Nocturne can engage with Paranoia, and I mean, if you look at this is why I was leaning towards the Leona. Didn't like the Kaisa as much, but Kaisa goes even more all in on this, set showstopper, Diana's Q, Moonfall, Paranoia, Killer Instinct, Solar Flare,
Yeah, Solar Flare is just more reliable engage, straight up.
Yeah,
right?
so-
Like, Thresh offers more utility, but the Solar Flare in the ability alone, and the follow-up, of course.
The synergy that T1's comp has with the Jinx is not that great. It's just that Jinx was a great option with Thresh as an AD carry, considering that most meta AD carries elsewise were banned away. So it felt like you chose, you know, it's like you're picking teams for like at the playground, and like it was the best option left of the players that were left to pick as the Jinx with the Thresh. But
poor Jinx.
But actually, in terms of tiers, like Kai'Sa's way lower. However, for the comp, it makes a lot of sense, and we haven't seen this really come online just yet, but I'm talking about some of the things that T1, some mistakes T1 might make.
Yeah.
That's not wrong based on, again, the map and where they are in this game, but wrong based on Nongshim's comp and how much Nongshim can punish them.
Yeah, I wonder who could have been better, like if Sivir were in the meta, you know, the magic shield to just deny that. Okay, we're gonna have to hold that thought. Kana, Heartbreaker's over the wall. He will get away, but that was pretty scary there for a moment. But yeah, maybe like Tristana, which they banned, you know, stuff like this. But the Jinx, you're right, it does kind of stand alone with the Thresh down on the bottom side. We'll see if it gets value later on, but for now, it's just kind of sitting there.
Xayah, something else I guess you could have considered as her own kind of safety net that she can
Xayah
have.
Khan, maybe?
Yeah, because that's going to help you against a lot of the engage tools that Nongshim have. You can counter some of that with the Rakan, and the Xayah can, you know, just flee away herself like into the air and be totally fine by the storm. So Nongshim going to look for a Drake advantage here now. And T1 are just not able to skirmish or fight. Look at the vision around the left side of the pit. Oh, look at all the pings. Like, T1's like, well, I can't be anywhere near that area. I can't be anywhere over there. They could be lying away for us. We don't know.
I'm glad you mentioned the Jinx, too, because it's funny how similar this game could have turned out to our Game 3 of Gen G versus Live Sandbox. I mean, you have the same matchup at the mid lane. You have, like, the same kind of weak AD carry that doesn't have mobility. We had Kog'Maw in that game with not much peel. This time we have Jinx in this game with not much peel. And there could have been a scenario where, like Live Sandbox in that previous game, T1 could have gotten ahead and were the huge favorites to win, but then the Jinx goes boom, and then it's like, oh, well, we lost all our damage, and I guess we lose the fight. That's what happened in that game, where Gen G were able to take it in one big team fight where they got jumped on by the way, Diana and Set. It's really weird how these two games could have been so similar.
And this meta is just so oftentimes revolving around those late game team fights because we're seeing LCK really slow down the mid game plays. And even a lead like 5 kills to 1 and 2,000 gold lead that we see for Nongshim isn't necessarily enough to guarantee you a massive lead going into the beginning of the late game. So still anything is possible here, but you see the Rift Herald tossed in right away, second one of the game to help push this mid turret down. Not going to be able to finish it off, but a lot of valuable damage here. Nongshim still sitting pretty in this game. Don't really need to force anything.
And I'm going to be curious to see, you know, what Teddy can do.
This ward battle is kind of hilarious.
It's funny to see. It'll be cool to see how long this game goes as well. I mean, Faker and Teddy just find themselves in super long games over and over and over again. Somehow, some way. And will this be another one? You know, Teddy was originally known as the Fountain Laser. And Jinx is definitely another champion that could potentially pull that off.
Look at this range and look at this threat. Like, Gory was not shown on camera there, but he was wrapping all the way around.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes a solar flare like that is just going to, if T1 try to contest, they actually end up getting collapsed on, they die, they have to back away. And that solar flare almost got you a turret, right, if you're Nongshim. So I love the proactive play we're seeing here, given the state of the game right now for this squad. The set got a little bit fed, right? So you can really avoid T1 punishing you because you know they can't actually be clearing these wards safely. Gory can actually take that trip around the world without any threat. Like, look at the champions that T1 have. There's nobody who's going to meet a Set in the jungle and be like, oh, okay, well, I'm sorry, you're going to have to walk away. Actually, Set could go wherever
Nobody
he wants.
does that to Set. Yeah. He's the boss.
He could do that. That's what it says on his LoL page. But he can go anywhere he wants.
It's true.
Whenever he wants. We need to make like a setfacts.org kind of webpage so people can know the truth about this champion.
We're just spreading truth. Everybody needs to hear our message.
But yeah, I mean,
set-fanclub.com.
You can't stop him from making those wraparounds right now. You could see it coming if you have vision, but if you don't, it's hard for you to even go in there and get that vision. If you don't see it on the map, you're like always at risk.
And here's another thing. Okay, so we are having more downtime. Another thing I wanted to mention is that again, the Thresh versus Leona considerations we were making here, as Gory is just going to haymaker backwards, clear the wave.
Use your body to clear a wave, yeah.
The thing about Leona is that she's really kind of like a win more support as well. Like if you're behind, solar flares feel less and less good because you just throw them out, they kind of ignore them. Maybe it can peel. It's not as good peel as Thresh though, right? Lanterns, plays, you have more utility that could have potentially been better had you been behind. But when you're ahead, you just throw out solar flares, that's potential kills. Because your team is ahead, you can jump on in, you have fed carries that can follow up on that. But when you're behind, it doesn't do quite as much. So the Leona here ends up getting a lot more value because Nongshim are ahead.
Yeah.
And you can see that it's only really good feels. You know, if T1 were engaging hardcore onto your Kai'Sa and you couldn't really peel because they just dashed past your solar flare, definitely wouldn't be feeling as good.
No, absolutely not. And the reason why Nongshim are ahead, if you're tuning in a little bit late or you've forgotten because it's been so long since we've actually had a real fight or a kill, we gotta watch this.
Guys, yeah, go back to the mid lane. This is definitely what we want to see. The Heartbreaker will be denied, by the way.
Here comes Peanut.
Here we go, just jumping on in. Ducktom is looking for the engage, but he went a little bit too far. He's going to be burst down. And now Rich is in the enemy jungle all alone, not able to do anything. Down he will go. And now it's a 5v3 in favor of T1. Nongshim, they are desperately looking to pull the triggers at any time possible, and they get themselves in trouble for it.
Yeah, and it almost felt like if Nongshim won that fight, by the turn we saw that was really similar to what happened on the top side of the map. I was going to say, it almost like goes back to what I was going to say and explain why T1 was behind in the first place, is fights like this, but this time it goes way better, right? Nongshim are not ready to pounce and actually punish as quickly with their comp this time when the death sentence comes through. They're going to group around this Baron, but they don't have the firepower to stop this.
No control wards either. Okay, there it is.
There's one.
And the one does come down. Will we have any steal from Peanut? Can he get it? No. That was down to like 24 health, but not quite able to get any kind of steal.
Peanut is famous for Baron steals, but this is a move that I think he will regret, and Nongshim will regret with him. As we watch this once again, it looks like maybe there's a turn here. Kellen has stopwatch. He is able to survive. He backs off. Peanut comes through. And look at how much engage they have. This is why I was talking about the top side of the map. T1 overextend because they think they can win this fight, but there's just so many ways you can collapse in. Unfortunately, though, Kellen is super low from the earlier exchange. You don't have a Kai'Sa who has enough damage to kill anybody. And watch this. How much is it? 69 when it hits, and like...
Nice.
Maybe if you're T1.
Yeah, for T1, I mean, that's a nice secure, but...
You've given over a lot of extra gold to T1 too. I don't think that was the right call from Peanut. You don't want to give up a Baron, but now you've given up your life as well.
I mean, I think the biggest issue with that was Ducktom killer instincting on top of Rumble.
Yeah.
Like, he just did nothing. He jumped in, got burned to death, and that was it. He was gone. He got zero value in that fight. Like, you can't be ahead and just lose your 80 carry. As sometimes the 80 carry roll gets memed when you just get popped like a balloon, but you gotta look out for yourself, as now Faker's gotta look out for himself, able to dash over the wall to safety.
Yep, he'll be okay. Kana's got a second item up now too. With all the gold given and the Baron buff on top of it all, like T1, we're making a big comeback in this game. And Nongshim gifting this to them by... You know, I mean, remember when Kellen actually stopwatched there instead of actually just going, like he flashed and then didn't, like he stayed, he didn't leave, and they tried to collapse in. If Nongshim just walk away there, we're still with a massive lead for them, but they got greedy.
Hook on Agori here, he doesn't care. As Nongshim, they're still very confidently pushing into T1's jungle, even though the equalizer will come down here. Here's the follow-up from Kellen. He's going to disappear. Now the Diana goes in, has to smite to survive. And, I mean, I suppose the only positive thing you can say about this for Nongshim is that they're buying time.
Remember,
but T1 are just absorbing this, and they're getting kills, and they're catching up.
Remember what you said about Leona being a win more, and how it doesn't look the same when they're behind? Well, after the second time Kellen makes a mistake here, being over-aggressive, I think we're going to find out what it looks like when you're behind, because T1 are now massively ahead in this game. They've won every single fight since that last exchange that went badly for them on the top side, because Nongshim are refusing to back off. They're actually just playing like they're massively ahead still, and crashing their heads into a brick wall every single time we look for these big engages. They don't have the damage just yet. Diana still only has the Rocket Belt and the Zonias here. You're not like going to explode T1 in one fell swoop with these engages.
Rumble has a lot more damage right now.
Yeah, like look at this fight again. Peanut's caught here. The equalizer comes down, and Kellen's going in. Ducktom's on the top side of the fight, but like, what are you thinking is going to happen here? Everybody's grouped up for T1. Nobody's isolated. You can't blow up targets that quickly, not anymore.
Yeah, you're fighting into a choke against Rumble, Jinx, Renekton. I mean, you're not going to have a good time, especially if you get caught out like that. I think that Nongshim, you know, they have a specific goal in mind. They see their composition. It's very obvious. You all press your buttons at the same time, and you dive the enemy back line, and you just look to get hyper-aggressive. But you got to be careful in times like this. You can't just go on any given day. You got to wait for your moments, like we were talking about in the last game.
I would love to see the item difference spikes for the AD carries because Infinity Edge was purchased just now for Ducktom, whereas 3 items have been done for Teddy for a while. He also has his next BF sword online, so Infinity Edge coming up soon. You have to imagine, like, the AD carry matchup here, which has been, again, a fairly boring lane to watch, but with the amount of damage that Teddy got done, got the full plates, went at top, got more value there, got so ahead, his power spike is accelerated, and that was going to be a win condition you could fall back on for T1 in this game, but now it just feels like a bonus because they've been given so many free team fights here from Nongshim, overextending, being too aggressive, that now you have a whole well-rounded team comp. Even a 2-item Viego has a stopwatch is actually relevant now. When Jinx can put people low, when you could see a really nice equalizer put people low, so Viego can pop off and get resets. It's a totally different game now. It turned on its head completely, like an hourglass flipping. And time is running out for Nongshim, it feels like, in this game if they keep crashing into these team fights haphazardly.
Yeah.
You need to play around more vision or around more people getting split.
Yeah, they're not even that far behind. Like, there is a couple of issues. You mentioned the items of Jinx. Now he has a stopwatch. But also the Rumble has gotten some significant gold back in his pockets, and he's going to be an issue. But
yeah.
I mean, you still have the same composition where if you find a Jinx, you find a Viego, somebody out of position, you can just CC them to death and blow them up. You still have that potential. That will always be there. It's just that the more time, the more levels, the more items you give to your opponent, it will be more difficult. And let's see how they set this one up, because Ward comes in. Peanut will clear that out with the rest of his team, and Nongshim, it doesn't look like they want to back down from this fight.
Nope. They have vision advantage here around the pit itself. T1 are going to have to try to push mid, try to find something else, get a little bit of prio before they collapse in.
It's a great forward ward from Kellen.
Rich's position is so good here because he can basically be anywhere
Yeah.
with his paranoia.
They're looking for Gory, who is just going to engage, gets into that back line. Nice base breaker as here we go. They're diving on in, and it is just immense damage into that back line, and this is exactly what we were talking about. They get on top of Teddy. He will go down. Baker is going 1v4, but it is not going to work out. It's not a clean ace, but it basically was, as Nongshim crushed them in the fight.
I'm going to have to watch that one on like times 1.25 speed to actually see who got picked first, but I think it was Keria. Just looking at death timers, it was the one who was collapsed onto when Gory goes in.
There it is.
Actually collapses. There's 1,000 kills for Peanut.
Congratulations. A huge honor. Peanut joins the upper echelon.
First exclusively jungle player to actually make that happen. So let's watch this one more time, because Gory is on the side here. Like I said, Rich can come in at any time. They collapse into Gory. He showstoppers in and actually looks for the angle here on the left side. You see the paranoia come through, and everybody gets clumped up here, but guess what? Set loves this!
Imagine being Jinx.
Imagine being Jinx. Imagine being Thresh even. Who cares? Like, Teddy's on the side here going, okay, well, I hope I can maybe help finish off these targets. Please help me, Faker, but no, not to be.
How am I supposed to play the game?
Like, set Diana.
봐줘.
So incredibly strong. You can't actually group up like this.
카이팅해. 나 존냐 있어.
Yeah, I mean,
He's just
오케이.
yelling to keep fighting
바로
to
가자.
Sonia's.
yeah. The idea is like, okay, let's try to kill this Set. I don't know why teams love to do this. They see Set and they're like, okay, we have to engage. They saw him alone and they were like, oh, maybe we can catch him out alone. But everybody on the side of Nongshim can hop walls. Every single champion can immediately jump in, and then you're clumped up.
This is
and
why
the Jinx has no peel. Nobody has no peel, and you're playing straight into Nongshim's comp.
the comp is, yeah, exactly. The comp has so much synergy. The execution is good here from Nongshim too. And, you know, they didn't know where Gory was. And then they focused him. He, you know, he's set. So Thresh is blown up first, and the rest of the team just falls apart afterwards. And now Nongshim have such a lead once again. Like, this game has definitely been back and forth, but Baron buffs up, Drake's, you know, 3 of them to 2, but the fact that they have Soul Point here means that the next Drake is so pressuring for T1. Like, they will have to actually fight over this. And I don't think they want to.
Yeah, they're trying to jump onto Ridge, but I mean, Strybreaker Nocturne is always going to get away. As we have seen over the course of 2 games, it's been pretty easy for Ridge to avoid getting collapsed on over and over again. And this is what I was talking about. You know, Nongshim, they had many stumbles in the mid game, but it ends up not mattering because of their compass. Okay, let's try to kill Set again.
I mean, watch this again. Like, he gets out totally fine. Ends up eating the equalizer damage, but now equalizer's on cooldown, so you feel even a little bit more comfortable to push through.
Look at his health bar. It's like, he got like 20% health there in like 3 seconds.
Plus
so
two Ocean Drakes on top of it all to help heal him up. Ocean Drake value in the late game against the Rumble is so good, actually. Because oftentimes the Rumble will just kind of continue to use that later on because the cooldown's so low, but you can heal back through.
Look at what's happening in this game now. I feel like that game, they crushed T1, and they crushed their spirits entirely. Will they make a stand? Will they have any hope of winning a team fight here? They're going to let all 3 inhibitors go down.
Defensive paranoia here. It guarantees the 3rd inhibitor. And now the ball's in Nongshim's court here. They can back off.
They're TPing in.
If anybody dies here for T1, they win the game, but I think they might maybe force this back off. Rumble does have his equalizer back up. Faker's going in.
Okay, equalizer does nothing. And there's the engage. The Diana goes in. The hook is good though. Nice. Zhonya's, but Peanut might be in danger. And there is the Set engage once again. Everybody tries to press their buttons, but the damage isn't enough. They're kiting back very well. And they're actually finding a way to win this one. The death sentence onto the Kaisa. T1 might have done it. They're able to get 4 here in the fight. And that is massive for trying to come back in this game.
Certified Clown Fiesta, I think, is where we're at right now, Valdez. But you can't stay that long. You said the equalizer does nothing. It did very little damage, but it trapped the members of Nongshim in the base. Then you start to see the engage come through. Like, we're going to jump right back to this. The equalizer locks them in a little bit, and it makes it feel like Nongshim have to stay and fight this because they can't actually get out. And then watch Kana in this fight. We see Peanut actually go golden twice. He has a stopwatch and the Zhonyas, so he's able to live, but he does nothing during these moments of the fight. Gory can't actually get the secure kill. Look at Kana. 1 reset. Okay, here we go. 2 resets, and he's just so unkillable in this fight anymore. Perfect death sentence there.
Yeah.
Coming through from Karya guarantees the kill onto Gory. So much extra gold going over to T1. They're going to tie up the Drakes with this too, unless Rich steals.
Okay,
which he does not.
That was a little bit scary. That was pretty tense, actually. You had minions pushing in, and if you give Ocean Soul away at that point, then your souls are certainly crushed. Spirits are totally gone.
This is a very crazy game, once again. We're 35 minutes in. Doesn't feel like it's that late in the game. Yeah, it's... Monte Cristo were here, man. He'd sign off on it.
Somebody get him on the phone.
And I think he's the one who decides what is, in fact, a Clown Fiesta, but...
Absolutely.
I know him pretty well. I think he would definitely approve. He might be watching right now. You never know. But anyway, now we're seeing a group up here for Nongshim. Once again, they still have those 3 inhibitors of pressure. So even though T1 win the fight, like, they're still on dire straits.
They run it back. They have 2 lanes pushing. Death Sentence misses. The engage comes in. He gets the stun on the Duck Dom, but there in goes the Set. And this time it's looking a bit better, although Teddy is still alive. Still trying to kite back, but he finally goes down to the Nocturne. And that might just be it, because though he still has full health, they're trying to kite down onto Gory, as they're actually not able to break the base here. Down will go the 2 turrets, but that is it.
But T1, they're permanently in their base now, Valdez. You're not going to be able to leave.
Oh boy.
They actually might even be able to collapse in here and take down the Nexus. Sometimes here.
He's looking for it, the Killer Instinct, he finds it, and he's able to get it down, and he's just going in. He doesn't give a damn right now. He's looking for the win, and he will be able to secure it. Finally, at the end here, Duck Dom shows up in a big way, and they're able to turn down all of the members of T1. Even Kellen survives as the Nexus goes down, and the 2-0 is secured for Nongshim. here tonight.
Very messy back and forth second game after what was an extremely long first game. You got to know tensions are high here on stage. Both